4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the place where you're not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to a Monday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course, streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, X, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. I got Nico, I got Moist Mike with me. We are rocking and rolling all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. SEC Media Days are officially underway. They got started earlier this morning. I heard Nick Saban had a little problem walking in, as he is no longer the head football coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide. He is now a part of ESPN's coverage, if you could believe that or not, as a media member. And as you know, it's very important for media members to wear their credentials. Nick Saban thought, oh, I'm the former coach of Alabama. I'm the greatest coach in college sports. When it comes to the football side of things, greatest college football coach ever. I think I'll be fine showing up to SEC Media Days. Never had to wear a credential as a coach, which is kind of hard to believe because there's usually access and you usually have to flash a credential. But when you're Nick Saban, you're kind of God and everyone bows down to you. But now, since he's no longer on the sidelines and since he is a part of the media, I guess he's persona non grata for a second at SEC Media Days, where, yes, you're like all the rest of us. And he even said earlier today he had to go back to his hotel, which is kind of crazy, right? It's Nick Saban. You would think, oh, hey, it's the old ball coach. Just let him in. We all know who he is. It's not as if he is someone that we had no clue what he looks like or what he sounds like, but they are very much in order for SEC Media Days, and they made Nick Saban go back to his hotel, maybe a little rookie hazing in the media world, to go get his credential, and then he was eventually granted access. Here's the most fascinating part to me, though, with the SEC. We know right now the team to beat is Georgia. We know Texas and Oklahoma officially making their debuts in the SEC are going to be fascinating to see how they'll be able to compete going over from the Big 12 to the SEC. But I think the most fascinating storyline is really, what will Alabama be in year one without Nick Saban? And I have an idea of what my expectation is for them. And anything short of making the college football playoff would be a disappointment. Like, they have to make the college football playoff in year one for Kalen DeBoer. If, for example, that Kalen DeBoer took over this year and it was the old format of 4 teams, I would not be sitting here after he has replaced Nick Saban and now he's the head honcho in Tuscaloosa saying, oh, if he doesn't make the college football playoff in a 4-team format, that's a disaster. I would not say that. But when you go to 12 teams, it gives the idea that there's a soft landing spot for the elite programs. And even without Nick Saban, Alabama is still viewed as an elite program. So if you're an Alabama fan that goes into this year saying, oh, they got to win a national championship, or they got to win a college football playoff game, or they at least got to be in the semifinals, I don't agree with that. All Alabama has to do this year, in my opinion, for me to check off a box and say this was successful year one for Kalen DeBoer, who I believe in greatly, they have to be one of the 12 teams. Because think about what the conversation and what the narrative will be if they're not one of the 12 teams. Because that bar for Alabama fans to be in the top 12 is pretty low. Like, even if it was at 6 this year, if they only expanded to 6, I don't even know if I would say it's a disaster they didn't make a 6-team playoff. 8, I would. 10, I would. But when you go to 12, Alabama can afford to probably have like 3 losses. And Alabama with 3 losses is going to get into the college football playoff. I know they reserve 5 conference champions that get in, so you have the 4 remaining because the Pac-12 is now out of it, and then the highest ranked non-Power 4, Core 4, whatever we're calling that in this new era of college football. But a reason why they have to be one of the 12 teams, because let's reach for the stars. Even when we were in a 4-team college football playoff format, and we went through last year and we entered the season, how many teams have a legitimate shot to win a national championship? The list was small then. And now when we go to 12, right? What does everyone tells me that's a proponent for a 12-team format? It's going to bring more parity. It's going to level out the playing field. It provides more of an opportunity. But going into this year, can you give me 5 legitimate teams in college football that you look at and you go, I expect them to be in the national championship game? Or for them, it's national championship or bust. Because I only think maybe at most there's 4 teams entering this season that could win a national championship. The first 2 are obvious. It's Georgia and it's Ohio State. And I think some people will be surprised to hear me say Ohio State because I can't stand Ohio State. I can't stand Ryan Day. And I voiced that opinion of not trusting Ryan Day the last 3 years. But Ryan Day wins a ton of games. His kryptonite is just Michigan. And Michigan's going to be weaker this year. Like, they can make the college football playoff this year, Michigan. No one's saying Michigan's going back-to-back. They lost so much. Now, they still have a awesome defense with Johnson and with Graham just leading the way to start. And Sharon Moore, there's continuity on that staff, even with all the changes. But they lost Harbaugh. They lost McCarthy. They lost Blake Corum. Donovan Edwards is back. He's on the cover, or part of the cover, of the NCAA video game that did relaunch today. So Michigan is one of those teams. They'll be a contender to make the college football playoff. But they're not a national championship contender this year. And if Ryan Day can't win the Big Ten this year, can't beat Michigan this year, and I know he's been to a national championship game before, but if he can't win the national championship this year, you start to wonder, is he ever going to be able to do that? And is Ryan Day just one of those coaches, and I believe he is, that is just a good coach and sometimes a very good coach, but he can't get the job done in the big game, and that prevents him, even with this sensational record, from becoming a great coach. But with the talent that they have, and Urban Meyer has said it, Jim Tressel has said it, both of those guys, and I was surprised to hear him say it, they think this is like the most talented roster Ohio State's ever had, which is crazy to me. Now, it's a very good roster. I'll say it, it's a great roster. It's loaded with talent. But we've seen Ohio State in recent years be loaded with talent and not get the job done. But Georgia and Ohio State are absolutely championship or bust teams. And then the other 2, I think Oregon is in championship or bust mode. I like Dan Lanning. I believe in Dan Lanning. They had 2 opportunities to beat Washington last year. They couldn't get the job done. But Dylan Gabriel, I think, is in a better spot going to Eugene than where Bo Nix was. And look what Bo Nix was able to do the last 2 years when he first got to Eugene, Oregon. And then the other national championship contender, I think it's Texas. Now, there's a big, big question mark with Texas. And that would be, look how long Texas struggled towards their end in the Big 12, where we mocked them when Sam Ehlinger said, we're back. And really, Texas wasn't back until last year, and they weren't even able to win a college football playoff game. And you're going to have to win more than just 2 college football playoff games in order to win the national championship this year with the expansion of 12 teams. But when you return Quinn Ewers and Sark has them moving in the right direction, I do think they're a national championship contender. And I do think it's championship or bust for Texas. But outside of that, I don't have another championship or bust team. So when I look at Alabama, who, by the way, even still with their question marks around them, they are tied for the 5th highest odds to win the national championship. Right now, I'm reading this off FanDuel. Georgia's at plus 300. Ohio State's at plus 400. Oregon's at plus 800. Texas at plus 850. And then you have Alabama and Ole Miss tied at plus 1,500. And if you look at, the 7 teams, the first 7 teams you see, Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, and LSU. So those 7 teams, 5 of them are from the SEC. So I know before the year, the preseason rankings are nice, right? The betting odds are nice. Sometimes they don't always result into how the season's going to play out. But before the season, even with the question mark of what Alabama will be without Nick Saban, they have the 3rd highest odds just inside the SEC to win the national championship and the 5th in the sport. So if they can't find a way with how open college football is this year, or maybe it's not actually that open, but I'm talking about to get to 12. Because to get to 1's a different spot. I don't think it's that open. But to get to 12, it's pretty damn open. If Kalen DeBoer can't get inside the top 12, it's going to get his tenure off to a rough start. And let me say this, being one of the biggest Kalen DeBoer fans on the planet, we had him on the show when he was at Fresno State. I thought he was an excellent hire at Washington. When he got the Washington job, even though I thought he was an excellent hire, if you would have told me 3 years ago, hey, Zach, he's going to go to a national championship game at Washington, and then he's eventually going to get the Alabama job, I would have never believed that. Number one, I wouldn't have believed that Washington was going to be the national championship game. But number two, I thought that Nick Saban was going to go on to coach longer than what he actually did. But we know name, image, and likeness, the transfer portal became very stale, even though it was newer to Nick Saban. It became stale quickly, and that's what made him tap out with the sport, and he has every right to do so, because it's not crazy that someone of the age of Nick Saban elected to retire with having truly nothing else to accomplish. And DeBoer has been a winner everywhere he has been. 104-12 was stopped at Sioux Falls, Fresno State, and Washington. Everywhere he's gone, he's exceeded expectations, and he has racked up a ton of wins. So if you're going to tell me, is the standard, and I think it's a fair standard for Kalen DeBoer this year, is to just be a top 12 team, I have a tough time thinking he won't be a top 12 team at the end of the season and being in the college football playoff. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you he'll win a college football playoff game. I'm not going to tell you he's going to win 2, 3, or he's going to win the national championship, because I don't view Alabama on that level. But when you look at duos and you look at partnerships and taking over this new era in Tuscaloosa, there's still one man that's very important that's still there from the old regime, and that's Jalen Milroe. And I thought Jalen Milroe last year, the quarterback, was in a very difficult spot, because he was the guy in the beginning of the season, and then early on they benched him. And I thought that was the first time you saw Nick Saban fold to public pressure, which he never would do. And then they went back to him. And as the season did go on, he wasn't perfect, but he improved immensely. And you had Alabama taking care of Georgia in the SEC championship game. They had the incredible throw on 4th and a millie, basically, up against Auburn in the Iron Bowl, too. But you had those two moments, and then a classic Rose Bowl up against Michigan, where they did eventually lose, and Michigan did go on to the national championship game, where Michigan ended up defeating Kalen DeBoer's Washington team. But now, where I think the biggest impact of DeBoer will be in year one, even though Saban is the greatest college football coach of all time, is also going to be with Jalen Milroe. I think Jalen Milroe is going to benefit the most from getting coached by Kalen DeBoer, an offensive-minded coach, and a guy who, let's be real, he knew Michael Penix. He worked with Michael Penix when they were together at Indiana. But Michael Penix's career was over with when he transferred to Washington. No one thought he was going to go on to have 2 Heisman-quality seasons. And he finished runner-up for the Heisman last year, playing in the national championship game. And, oh, yeah, by the way, getting picked 10th overall and going 8th overall, or top 10 pick going 8th overall to the Atlanta Falcons. So I think Milroe, who we know is a tremendous runner and has the ability to be a good thrower, is going to have a big season this year for him individually. He'll be in the Heisman Trophy conversation. I don't think he's going to win it, but I do think you'll see a more polished Jalen Milroe this year, because there's no doubt about it, this is his team. So when looking at this, year one expectations for Alabama. I know this is not easy to make sure that Alabama fans have realistic expectations, because when you are king, when you're at the top of the mountain for well over a decade, and every year it's national championship or bust, I don't think this is a national championship or bust season. And as long as Kalen DeBoer makes the college football playoff this year, I think Alabama, it's in the start of a good new chapter in this first chapter, and a good new book in this first chapter for Kalen DeBoer. But you look inside those top 7 teams with the highest odds to win the national championship. Like, yeah, we all know Kirby Smart, who's won it before, right? He's the new king of college football. They're expected to do so. You go to 12 teams. Ohio State, you better not only be in the college football playoff, you better be in the championship game and winning the championship game this year. Dan Lanning, I'd be very surprised even with going to new conference, they're not in the college football playoff. Texas as well. But you look inside the SEC and you look at those next tier of teams after the top 4 highest odds to win a national championship. What I just said about Alabama for Kalen DeBoer in year 1, where he has to be in the top 12, you look at the 2 teams after him, Ole Miss and LSU. I'm fascinated because, condolences, by the way, to Lane Kiffin on the passing of his father, Monty Kiffin. But Ole Miss, they have to make the college football playoff this year. Like, they have so much talent right now. They are tied for the 5th highest odds to win the national championship. And it'd be a bad look for Lane Kiffin if he's not in the top 12 and is not in the college football playoff. And Brian Kelly as well. Brian Kelly, it's so odd to look at him at LSU because year 1, right, we were all making fun of him with those cheesy recruiting videos and the family part where it's like, that's not your accent, that's not how you speak. And they had that ugly loss where I think they missed the extra point or got the extra point blocked up against Florida State. And the next thing you know, they're in the SEC championship game. They ended up losing. And then last year, they had a great offense, produced a Heisman Trophy winner in Jaden Daniels, but they had no defense. So my bar for LSU this year is not to get to a national championship game, but they got to be one of those 12 teams in. And if you look at it after that, to round out the top 10, as I just gave you the 7th highest odds, like Penn State, James Franklin. I don't expect you to win a national championship game. You can't win a big game to save your life, but you got to be in the top 12 this year. Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman, you got to be in the top 12 this year. Mike Norvell, he gets the benefit of the doubt. I think they're going to win the ACC. I like DJ Uiagalelei going to Florida State to compete up against his old guy from now 2 stops ago in Dabo and Clemson. But Florida State's another team that should be in the top 12 this year. So that's my year 1 expectations for Alabama. I know it's not what Alabama fans expect, but I think it's fair. And if you are a realistic Alabama fan, which I don't know how much that exists, you can't be expecting this to be Saban right away. Kalen DeBoer has proven in a very quick time he wins everywhere he goes. But in year 1, just be in the top 12, and that will set the foundation to continue something that's been very special for basically 2 decades in Tuscaloosa. What are your expectations for Alabama in year 1? 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. We'll take a timeout. When we come on back, Tyreek Hill is back to talking about Tua Tagovailoa's contract and how he views Tua as a quarterback. We'll play that for you next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This is the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, rocking and rolling. It is the Infinity Sports Network, and it is the Zach Gelb Show. So we've talked a lot this summer about Tua Tagovailoa and Tyreek Hill. From the latest reporting, it was Jeff Darlington. He talked about how the Dolphins are offering a contract that's below market value right now to Tua. And we also kind of heard Tyreek Hill about a week ago set the foundation for his contract extension when he was at some event and he was talking about the wide receivers in this league that have just received lucrative contracts, and he's talked about wanting to get a new deal. And it's important to note, even though there's a few years left on Tyreek Hill's contract, this is the last year where there is guaranteed money on Tyreek Hill's contract. So I do think there is an order, and I don't think it's just a coincidence that now Tyreek Hill is talking about Tua's contract. Now, regardless of what you think of Tyreek Hill as a person, Tyreek Hill has been very loyal to Tua. So it's not like he's just supporting Tua out of nowhere. He's been very supportive of Tua ever since he's got to Miami. And Tyreek, I'm talking about, got to Miami. He's even, said some questionable things that did not sound great, knowing who his old quarterback was in Patrick Mahomes. And he's like, I've never played with the more accurate quarterback. And, when you're trying to prop up or your guy, then sometimes when you were playing with one of the great quarterbacks in Patrick Mahomes, it's like, oh, you're slighting the other guy that you used to play with. So it's not as if Tua hasn't always been supportive, or Tyreek has always been supportive of Tua, but I don't think it's just a coincidence that now you're hearing more of it in regularity, and it's really the last 2 weeks him talking about himself and his contract, and then talking more about Tua's contract, because there's a pecking order here. There's dominoes that need to fall. Right now, Tua Tagovailoa is on his fifth-year option. And could the Dolphins franchise tag him twice if they want to? Yeah, I don't think that's good business. And it also could get a little nasty, and we haven't seen the nasty side yet from Tua Tagovailoa, who has always said the right thing, and he's expecting to be paid. But Tyreek Hill has to know in the back of his mind, even though, and I've said this numerous times and I'll say it again, Tyreek Hill is more valuable to the Dolphins than Tua Tagovailoa is. But just because you're more valuable and just because you're better at your position than Tua is at his position, because of the value of the quarterback and the timing of both of your respective contracts, it doesn't mean just because Tyreek Hill starts paving the foundation for him to get a new contract that they're going to go right to Tyreek Hill and say, boom, here's your deal. They need to take care of Tua Tagovailoa first. But there's a little bit of a dilemma here. And it's because if you look at it honestly, Tua Tagovailoa has had one season that you could say was a great season or sell it as a great season. And I don't even think last year was a great season, but he grades statistically top 5 in like every passing category. Now, did he have signature moments? Did he have these big marquee wins? No. Did they win a playoff game? No. Did they beat the Bills in the last game of the season to win the division after leading the division for most of the year? No. So what I view as great may not be as what others view as great. And I don't think Tua, quite frankly, is a great quarterback. But you could sell it, as we said all the time, good quarterbacks selling themselves as great quarterbacks to get paid great money. And Tua's biggest argument here right now is Trevor Lawrence. Like, Jared Goff, I'm throwing out because Jared Goff deserved an extension right now. He was just in the NFC title game. Jared Goff was an afterthought. He was a throw-in in that deal to the Detroit Lions. Detroit never thought they were going to give a new deal to Jared Goff when they acquired him. They just knew acquiring him would get them an extra first-round pick when they traded Matthew Stafford. But when the Lions, who could have opted not to pay Jared Goff this offseason, elected to do so, that was them not wanting to disrupt anyone. Because that's a team with legitimate Super Bowl expectations this year. But when Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars got a brand new spanking deal for $50+ million a year, that's one where if I'm Tua Tagovailoa, I could say, hey, if he's getting paid, I deserve to get paid right now. But just because one team rushed to give a quarterback that wasn't deserving, in my opinion, of a new contract, doesn't mean the Dolphins have to do that as well. And Tua has had 2 seasons where he's really impressed. Got off to that slow start. Brian Flores, we know, was not a Tua fan. And then Mike McDaniel fully embraced Tua Tagovailoa. But 2022, he's having a very good season. And then we had all the back and forth with the concussions. So that doesn't make us look back at that season as a great season because he didn't get through the entirety of the season. And last year statistically had his best season in the NFL. And it was 1 year of finally staying fully healthy or being given that opportunity to play every game in the NFL. And he was able to do that. And I do think Tua has limitations. I don't think the ceiling of Tua is a Super Bowl winning quarterback and is an elite quarterback in this league. I think he is right in that range of being a top 10 quarterback in this league. And all I've said all offseason long, if I'm the Dolphins, I would want to see him, I'm not even saying improve of what he did last year, but just replicate what he did last year before I'm thinking about committing 50-something plus million dollars to Tua Tagovailoa. And even if that means having to give him a few extra million per year a year from now, I'm fine with that. And I understand the argument, and Mike has made it before, for a guy that you don't believe could win a Super Bowl, a guy that you just believe is a good quarterback, not a great quarterback, why are you going to devote so much of the salary cap to him and use up so much of your salary cap on him? It's because what else do they do? Like, think what you want about the Dolphins. I don't think they're winning a Super Bowl anytime soon, but they are in championship mode right now. They are kind of like the San Francisco 49ers light. That's how I'll say it. They got some explosive talent. They have a very good roster, and now they got to get the job done. And just making the playoffs isn't good enough, in my opinion. But for Tua to get paid, I'm not rushing to pay him this year because what happens if he gets hurt this year? Then we're in the same boat as where we were after the 2022 season where it's like, oh, you can't trust this guy to stay healthy. And some Dolphins fans will be like, oh, that's ridiculous. That's not fair. Well, did you watch him at Alabama? And I used to be a huge Tua Tagovailoa fan. I'm not saying I'm not a Tua fan anymore, but that body's been through a lot of wear and tear. Shoulder injuries, ankle injuries, hip injuries. And there's been injuries in the NFL too. So just because other teams have paid him, in my opinion, doesn't mean that the Dolphins should. But you know how it is in the NFL. It's how can you use what other teams have done or other players have done to go get yours. So is there a chance that the Dolphins get a deal done with Tua before the start of the season? I guess. But I don't think it's going to happen, and I do think that would be the prudent decision by the Miami Dolphins. But just because I say that doesn't mean that they won't get a deal done, because I also wouldn't have paid Trevor Lawrence this offseason, and Jacksonville elected to do so. But Tyreek isn't a dummy, and we'll play his audio in just a second. He knows before he gets a new contract that he needs Tua to get a new contract, because Tua is priority number one right now for the Dolphins over Tyreek Hill. Here is Tyreek Hill, though, on the ESPN defending his quarterback Tua Tagovailoa.
For people to sit here and try to discredit Tua and say, he's not deserving of a contract is wild to me, man. Because a lot of guys on the team understands his value and understands, that we need him. We need his leadership. We need, his mindset. Like the mindset that he brings into each and every week is there. It's like Terminator almost, man. So I feel like he should be one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. Obviously save some room for me, but we're going to get into that. You know what I'm saying?
That's him laying the foundation to get Tua taken care of, so then eventually he gets taken care of again. And you could create an argument. You could craft an argument why Tua should get paid based off some other guys that got paid, or that he's good enough, or what else would you do if you got rid of Tua a year from now? And there's no great answer. What, do you go to trade for Kirk Cousins? You're going to go sign Dak Prescott? And we've seen so many big quarterbacks just get traded recently or sign in other spots, and the Dolphins aren't going to be bad enough to go get a top 10 draft pick. They have to trade up if they want to get one of these guys in the draft. And this isn't perceived to be a strong quarterback draft class. So it's not a matter, in my opinion, for the most part, if Tua is going to get paid. I just think it's going to be when. And I think the when should be after he proves it again this year and you pay him a year from now. But once Jacksonville paid Trevor Lawrence, Tua can run to the Dolphins and say, you can't say he's been better than me in my career. And the Dolphins come back and say, he's won a playoff game, you haven't. They can. But Trevor Lawrence has had a rough first season, and that was Urban Meyer related, then a really good second season, and then they fell back. They fell back a bit and regressed this past year. So if he's getting paid after 3 years, then yes, you could craft that argument why Tua should get paid. Marco, as you could tell, I'm in the camp, even though I understand the other side of it, that the Dolphins should wait, after this season to pay Tua Tagovailoa, make sure he does it again. And I'd rather have to pay more a year from now than what it would be now, because I know we're in this groove and this kind of rhythm of, just give the quarterback money, and if it doesn't work out, you'll eat the dead cap and you'll figure it out. I don't think that's smart business, so I would just like to see it one more year. What do you think ultimately happens, though, with Tua and the Dolphins?
I think they wait. I would definitely wait, and I'm usually in the camp of pay the quarterback.
Yeah.
You know who you want, get it done. I personally am not a big Tua guy. So in that regard, that's why I would wait. And a lot of it does have to do with the injury history. He's got a ton of it, including concussions that I know this year got through it. We all hope he gets through another year and gets through the rest of his career. But there is history there. There are question marks. There are issues. Not to mention you go into you faded down the stretch and the playoff stuff. There's a lot of things with Tua that I'm still a little
the Bills
hesitant.
were practically begging him to win that final game of the season to go win the AFC East, and they couldn't get the job done, even with all the turnovers Buffalo had in that game.
Again, there's some question marks when you're talking about play, and then you add in the history of the injuries. There's a lot there that I'm not sold on. I don't know if the Dolphins are. I'll say this. If you're sold, this is our guy, we're moving forward, Tua's our franchise quarterback, we want this guy, then you know what? Stop penny pinching, figure it out, get it done. Because there's no reason to wait unless you have questions. So you can't tell me that you don't have questions.
And your actions have to speak if you act, because the Dolphins will say Tua's our guy. Chris Greer has said it.
You could say what you want.
And Mike McDaniel has said it, but then the reporting from Jeff Darlington is they're offering him a deal below market value. Like if they were offering him 53, 54, 50, it's just a report was below market value. I don't know. If they were offering him in that 52 to 55 range, okay, that's on Tua for not getting the deal done. But it doesn't seem like that's what they're offering right now. And that screams to me as a team that's saying they love him, but maybe it's they just like him.
Well, that, and also, too, we look at the guarantees. So is it 52, 53, but you're guaranteed for 2 years, and then we can, cut you and get out from
like
under?
We're in the Saquon Barkley mess all over
but I mean,
again.
it's, honestly, it's similar. He's done a whole lot more, but it's similar to the Daniel Jones with the Giants. They didn't know if they wanted to keep him, but he went out and won a playoff game, played great, and it was, hey, but the contract was structured as such, 2 years and we can get out if we don't believe you. Maybe that's what they're offering Tua right now, and he's looking at it and going, yeah, I'm getting $53 million, I'm getting some money up front, but you can get out from under in 2 years. I want more security than that. So we don't know exactly what the details are. My feeling is if the Dolphins are truly serious, and again, this is actions, not your words, truly serious, this is your guy, you're moving forward, no matter what, this is our quarterback, we found that spot.
Pretty easy to get the
Then
deal
get it done. Then get it done. If you can't get it done, that means that you don't truly 100% believe in Tua.
855-212-4227. Let me just take one right here. We opened up the show talking about expectations for Kalen DeBoer year one at Alabama. Ron in Pennsylvania wants to jump in that conversation. Ron, what do you have to say?
Well, first off, Zach, I want to say I've been listening to you since you did overnight weekends, and I think you're the best sports commentator on the radio.
Well, I appreciate that. Did you get the check I sent you, just wondering? Right? Check's in the mail, right, Ron?
All right. Well, I'm a big, huge Alabama fan, and I think you're correct. To make the playoff, I'd probably be a little more happier if they win the first round game, but if they can do that, I'll be happy overall.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. And I know you can reach a little bit higher than I am, and that's in the line of my thinking. And appreciate the kind words, and thanks for all your years of listening, Ron. But for me, with Kalen DeBoer taking over year one with Nick Saban, and how open it is to get to 12, and I don't think it's very open to win a national championship, but to just be one of the 12 teams, when you enter the season with the fifth highest odds to win a national championship, and I love DeBoer, and you have a quarterback that's returned, and I think he's going to benefit from DeBoer being there, they got to be in the top 12. Anything after that, I just think it's gravy in year one, but it's nice to hear an Alabama fan be level-headed about this, because that's my biggest question mark with the Alabama fan right now, after being used to something for so many years and every year expecting to win a national championship. Are you going to be able to tone down the expectations and be realistic in year one for Kalen DeBoer? We'll take a timeout. When we come on back, we'll update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We'll get to a news brief. But first, we have the latest Infinity Sports Network update. And here he is, El Capitan, Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Zach, we're sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Protect your family, your phone, and your furry friends with Life electronic device and pet health insurance. Pete Alonso getting another crack at tying Ken Griffey Jr. for the most home run derby titles at 3. Alonso set to participate in his 5th straight derby later tonight.
It doesn't get old. It doesn't get old going. It's equally as exciting, and it's really special to me, and I'm really happy to represent this team and this organization and doing the derby again.
Alonso has lost the last couple years, looking to reclaim his titles from 2019 and 2021. Also have a teammate there as Jose Iglesias will get the night started off in an interesting way.
They want me to be there before the derby and perform the OMG song, and it's a unique opportunity, and then I'm going to go perform and heading back to Miami.
So Iglesias will start things by singing his hit OMG. Then 8 participants in the Derby will take center stage. You got the Orioles shortstop Gunnar Henderson, Alec Bohm of the Phillies, Guardians Jose Ramirez, Teoscar Hernandez of the Dodgers, Rangers Adolis Garcia, Bobby Witt Jr. from the Royals, and the Braves Marcell Ozuna. Vikings wide receiver Jordan Addison arrested Friday, LA International Airport on suspension of driving under the influence. He was reportedly asleep behind the wheel blocking a lane. I'm Marco Belletti.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is, play Infinity Sports Network. That's it. Play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Infinity Sports Network, and it is the Zach Gelb Show. We'll get to a news brief in just a second. 855-212-4227. Michael in Vegas wants to chime in, though, first. Mike, what do you got cooking for us?
Hi, Zach. I love your show. You already know that. Before I start in, I just want to tell you, I think you're amazing. You have a great way of handling people. I want to use the word politically correct. You're just really smooth. And you great questions you always ask people, insightful interviews. But one of your so I'm like 99% all in. The 1% I'm not in is your love for the Patriots.
Well, that's all right. It's because what, you're a Raiders fan?
I'm a damn Raiders fan, Zach.
Yeah.
And I'm upset with you because 2 weeks ago you said our quarterbacks suck, and I think Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi suck.
Well, Mac Jones isn't on the Patriots anymore. He's now in Jacksonville backing up Trevor Lawrence.
I got that.
Here's the difference, though, between you and I, Mike. And I appreciate the compliment, and I always love when someone gives me a good year butt. That's always appreciative because you stroke the ego a little bit, and then you're like, all right, let's go take the kill shot at Zach Gelb.
I'm upset about the Raider comment. Aiden O'Connell had 12 TDs and 7 picks last year. He was a rookie. I thought he did pretty good. And I'm not saying he's all that, but I'll take Aiden O'Connell and Minshew over your two quarterbacks the last 3 years any day of the week. So why don't you start complaining about your team?
I do. I hold on. I told you my team last year was going to suck. I told you I wanted to tank last season and get the number 1 overall pick. So what do you want me to complain about? Mike?
I'm here. Anyways, I got to run. I love your show. Listen, I'm just calling out the Raiders are going to have the number one defense in the Raiders are going to have number 1 defense in the league next year. Just mark it down. I love your show. I'm going to keep listening all day.
You got it. Appreciate it, Mike. Well, a few things there. Number 1, you can't get mad because I said I say that the Raiders quarterback room isn't good. I don't know if I said it sucks, but I don't think it's good. If you're debating on who's going to start Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew, that's not like a good option. Neither of those guys are going to be the franchise guy. And we'll get more into the Raiders in just a bit because you know down deep Davante Adams is going to be tied with the quarterback room as well. So that's number 1. But number 2, I think the Raiders defense is going to be solid. Like, I love Max Crosby. Hopefully these are enough positive comments from Mike in Vegas, so I'm just messing with. I love the acquisition of Christian Wilkins, but he said the number 1 defense in the NFL? Oh, what are they going to get rid of? Like 20 teams to make them the number 1 defense in the NFL? So let's pump the brakes a little bit on that. The Raiders, at best, if everything goes well for them this year, at best, they'd be the 2nd team in the AFC West. And I don't think they're going to be the 2nd team in the AFC West. I think it will be the Chargers, but quite frankly, I don't think the Chargers, the Broncos, nor the Raiders are going to be any good this year. So, yes, I am a Patriot fan. For 20 years, there was nothing really critical for me to say about my team. The last 2 years, absolutely. I have every right to be critical, and I have been critical. So this notion that I'm not critical about them, I don't understand, because I told you they were going to be trash last year. But that wasn't me being critical enough. So, all right. I'll expect Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew to be leading the Raiders this year to a big playoff performance with that number 1 defense and what's going to be a great offense. All righty, let's get to some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We get to a news brief right now.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
All right, let me start it off with Coach J.J. Redick. What a weird sentence to say. He was on Sirius XM NBA radio, and he was laying out his expectations for Bronny.
He's a development player. That's how we're looking at Bronny. He's certainly going to spend time with the Lakers. He will spend time as well in the G League. And what I've communicated to him right now, what we're looking for is defensive ball pressure. I told him this yesterday. I said, I don't care if you have 10 fouls. I don't care if you get blown by. What I do care about is if you're on the ball and you're 3 feet off the ball. Like, you have to be a guy that's a ball hawk at all times. We're going to develop his shot. We'll develop his ball skills. He's already got a great feel. He has a really good instinctive nature on the defensive end. We used the example yesterday. We were at the Canada-USA basketball exhibition game, and I turned to one of our assistant coaches during the game, and I said, I think Lou Dort just single-handedly broke up the 8th possession of the game. Like, his impact, he literally blows up entire plays because of that pressure, and I really believe this. Bronny eventually will be that guy.
I'm really sick and tired of talking about Bronny because he's the 55th pick in the draft, but with all that being said, as much as I despise J.J. Redick, I actually think that's a great answer from J.J. Redick. So I could be fair there, even though I dislike someone. But that's what Bronny should be focused on first. It's defense. Like, if your offense is going to be great, you have to be giving the most effort you can and be really damn good defensively. I don't expect much out of Bronny's career outside of that he'll eventually play with LeBron James at some point this season, so LeBron could check that off his bucket list, which will be a cool moment. Here is Jim Edmonds, the former outfielder, legend. He ripped a Cubs player for their home run celebration. Listen up.
So the Cubs exacting some revenge, and they're going to have back-to-back homers again. Morel hits one deep into the seats. He's got a 2-homer game.
This kid's celebration is a joke. I don't mind saying it at all. I've never seen anything like it. I just don't get it. You're a 229 hitter in the big leagues, and you're running around like you're Barry Bonds.
Oh, jeez. So don't get me wrong. Christopher Morel's not going to Cooperstown. And maybe he was taking his time a little bit running around the bases, but he got to home. And unless I'm missing something, he clapped his hands and then kissed his hands and then pointed them to the sky. Like, that's what we're freaking out about? It's okay to show a little personality in baseball, Jim. And I love watching Jim Edmonds as a player, but that's what we're freaking out about? Ridiculous. Aaron Judge has been mistaken for Aaron Gordon. This is on the Casa de Club podcast.
Spring training, I'm grocery shopping. I'm in the produce section, I'm grabbing some fruit, doing this stuff, and I see this guy across the way, like, give me the look like he saw a ghost. And I'm like, trying to ignore it, like, oh, it must be a Yankee fan, he's probably going to say, and I'm just grabbing stuff, and all of a sudden, I kind of walk by him, and he's like, how are you here? And I'm like, I gotta get groceries, man. What are you talking about? I gotta eat. I gotta, we got stuff to do. I got a family to feed. He's like, but I just saw you on TV playing in Orlando. Like, how are you down here in Tampa? And I'm sitting there, I'm like, damn, he thinks I'm Aaron Gordon.
That's great. Like, you would think you couldn't mistake Aaron Judge, but somehow he gets mistaken for Aaron Gordon, which isn't the craziest when you look at them side by side. But if I saw Aaron Judge standing right in front of me, my first thought would not be, oh, that's Aaron Gordon. And finally, here's Travis Hunter. He rips the Colorado offensive lineman playing a video game.
Okay, bro. Why am I getting chased by?
There we go.
How? The O-line is realistic. Yes, very realistic. What you mean? Kickers can't block for nothing.
It's kind of crazy. Only thing would be crazier if Shedeur Sanders said that. That would be the craziest. But I've said that about Colorado football. I know some Colorado fans haven't liked it so far, and I've been seeing all these comments on YouTube with an interview that I did with their buddies in Waco, Texas, and then also our interview last week that we did talking about Colorado with Mike Sanford. Just because the offensive line, they say it's improved. It was so bad last year. It could be improved, and it still can't be an offensive line that's worthy enough to go get to bowl eligibility. So that line should be better, but how much better? That's the question that will ultimately define what Coach Prime and what Shedeur and what Travis Hunter will look like this upcoming season with their Colorado football program as a team. Take a time out, talking Raiders next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, away we go. Hour number 2 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. I want to get to some stuff on Davante Adams. I think this will be Davante Adams' final season as a member of the Raiders. He's under contract through 2026. It was clear, and we'll play some audio in just a bit from the Netflix documentary, the receiver. I don't think you need to hear it to know this. But last year, Davante Adams was not happy with the Raiders. And then ultimately, Josh McDaniels got fired, and deservedly so. Antonio Pierce took over as the head coach. Davante Adams became a little bit happier. They gave Antonio Pierce the head coaching job full time. And I think that set a way for the breakup, which I do think is inevitable, just to be delayed a little bit. Because the dead cap to move on from Davante Adams for this upcoming season is $40 million. It goes down to 15 when you get to the second to final year of that contract, which would be a year from now in 2025. But going back to Mike in Las Vegas' point, and he heard me say this, I guess, a month ago. I don't remember saying it, but it does sound like something I will say, so I'll say it again. I don't think the Raiders quarterback situation is going to be good enough that is going to make Davante Adams say at the end of this season, even though I love playing for Antonio Pierce, that means I'm going to want to be back with the Raiders. Like, Davante Adams has played his ass off the last 2 years. 14-something hundred yards in year one and was a first-team All-Pro, and this past year had 1,100-something yards. But it could be so much better. And I understand why he left Green Bay. It's because the Packers were just caring about getting a deal done with Aaron Rodgers, and they didn't devote enough of their attention, even though he left money on the table in Green Bay to go to the Raiders, but they didn't pay enough attention to him. So I understand why he was tired with all that, and he elected to just say, I'm going to force my way, and I'm going to get traded to the Raiders. But when you are a receiver and you don't have not even a great quarterback, but a good quarterback, it does make your life difficult. Even if you put up numbers that a lot of wide receivers would be envious of. But you got to remember, Davante Adams doesn't have a Super Bowl in his career. So in all likelihood, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Like, he's accomplished everything he could individually from a statistical standpoint, but he's not on the right team to forget about winning the Super Bowl, but just putting him in a Super Bowl conversation. So I think he'll play nice this year. Maybe it ramps up and you get a little dirty at the trade deadline to try to expedite your departure. But I think out of respect to Antonio Pierce, he'll play nice with the Raiders this year. But at the end of the season, he'll look at Gardner Minshew, he'll look at Aiden O'Connell, and you'll see a lot of up and down with the Raiders at the quarterback position and not enough good play and good production from the quarterback position where Davante Adams is going to say, peace, I want out. I want to get traded. In all likelihood, probably demand a trade to the Jets and play another season with Aaron Rodgers or maybe go somewhere else. Like, it would be great to see Davante Adams with Patrick Mahomes, but you know the Raiders are never trading him in division to the Kansas City Chiefs. So is there another team in the AFC that will be interested? Sure. There'll definitely be teams that will be interested in the NFC. We've even talked about maybe he goes back to Green Bay and he teams up with Jordan Love. But I don't think this time next year as you gear up for football that Davante Adams is going to be on the Raiders. But let's play you some of this audio because I think it's fun to listen to. This is Davante Adams. You know what? I think I was more upset than Davante Adams in this game because I remember it was right before Halloween. The Lions were playing the Raiders, and Davante Adams didn't have a touchdown in quite some time because of how bad the Raiders' quarterback play was last year. And I want to say it was a Monday night football game. It was the Lions and it was the Raiders. And I made a pretty large bet at plus 150 for an anytime Davante Adams touchdown. And there was a few moments in that game where Davante Adams should have been in the end zone. But there was one throw in particular where Davante Adams was wide, and I mean wide open. And Jimmy G wasn't even in the same zip code when he threw that football to try to go find and locate Davante Adams. This is Davante Adams. This was via Netflix's receiver, upset after a bad pass from Jimmy Garoppolo.
If I'm 17, I got to go. If we get a new quarterback, I got to go. He's frustrated.
What is he doing out there?
He's not getting to the ball.
Garoppolo into the deep territory, looking for Adams, and he missed him. He was all alone. That will be as open as Davante is going to be in his life.
Wide open.
This pathetic, bro. Just throw the ball, man. Tired of this bullshit.
So a lot of cursing in there from Davante Adams. And that clip started with two players of the Lions talking, how from the other sideline they could sense how visibly perturbed Davante Adams was with his quarterback because Jimmy G couldn't get him the ball. Now, in the docuseries Receiver on Netflix, Davante Adams makes it clear that he signed off on Jimmy G getting benched when he did by the Las Vegas Raiders.
My opinion on that was that I signed off on that, and that's just the reality of it. I love Jimmy, and he's a great guy, but something had to happen in order for us to have a chance down the stretch and for me to remain a Raider, in all honesty.
So he's not wrong. He knew, and that's the part that probably has to infuriate Davante Adams. Think about where we were 2 years ago. I don't think Josh McDaniels, as bad of a head coach that he is, I don't think Josh McDaniels is in the wrong for saying Derek Carr isn't the guy. Totally get it. I don't think Derek Carr is the guy. So it would be hypocritical of me to get on McDaniels for getting rid of Derek Carr. But I always say this, when you advocate to get rid of someone, you need to tell me who is your ideal replacement and then who is your backup plan. And when you look at 2022, where Davante Adams actually had 100 receptions, 1,516 yards, and 14 touchdowns, and that was with Derek Carr as his quarterback. If you were going to get rid of him, who's the guy? Now, you look at the numbers that Davante Adams put up last year with a combination of Aiden O'Connell, Jimmy G, and I think a few others. He had 103 receptions, so more receptions, but the yards were significantly lower, 1,144, and he had 8 touchdowns. So I go back to an offseason ago when we were discussing who the Raiders should have acquired. I think Josh McDaniels thought it was pretty much as close as a lock that Tom Brady was going to continue playing and Tom Brady was going to come back with the Raiders. Brady elected to say, I'm going to retire, though, and he actually stayed true to the retirement, even though there was some talks about the San Francisco 49ers trying to get him. And then I always thought that was a joke about then his friends threw him a retirement party. He was thinking about going back. But I guess that is something that was somewhat close to being true. So once Brady's off the board, here's the name that I still can't believe they didn't get. Why didn't the Raiders trade for Aaron Rodgers? And it seemed like Rodgers was interested in them because he's talked about wanting to play with Davante Adams again. But the Raiders never made what I thought was a serious push or a strong enough push for Aaron Rodgers. Like, if you recall, and I know that Rodgers has done a ton of interviews, and a ton is even an understatement with Pat McAfee. When he made his decision, and he said when he emerged out of the darkness retreat, and he put the ayahuasca on the back burner, and he did an interview with McAfee, and he said, my intentions are to play for the Jets this year. There was a reference by either McAfee or Rodgers. Someone brought it up about, why didn't you, team up, or why aren't your intentions to go play with number 17 that you used to play with again? And he's like, hey, I wanted to. So the Raiders it didn't seem like they were legitimately interested. Like they said, yeah, we'd be interested in Aaron Rodgers. But it didn't seem like they were actually interested. So once you don't get Rodgers and once you don't get Brady, and you didn't do anything in the draft, because at least if you drafted a young quarterback that's inspiring, you can't then just bring in Jimmy G, because I can't even argue that Jimmy G's a better quarterback than Derek Carr. At best, that's a lateral move. That doesn't move you forward. And it actually moved them backwards. So now they've gone through another offseason, and now you have a new GM and a new head football coach. And I guess they tried to trade up in the draft. Antonio Pierce wanted Jaden Daniels, but there's no way that the Commanders were trading the second overall pick. And now you enter this season in what is a crucial year for Davante Adams, with basically a quarterback and two quarterbacks that not are really going to inspire anyone to thinking that Davante Adams is going to want to go through this again. Like, Davante Adams is giving the Raiders chances. He's giving them one last chance. And I know it's now a new regime, but in the last chance, you can't go into the season with Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew. Because I think you'll see more of last year with Davante Adams this year than what you saw 2 years ago. And even though Davante Adams may be more open, right, and he enjoys playing for Antonio Pierce, and he said all the right things about Aiden O'Connell, eventually there's going to be games where you're getting hit because there's bad passes, or you're wide open and the ball's not getting thrown right into your hands. And I don't think anyone would blame Davante Adams for being frustrated. And it's tough to go from one of the guys, even though Carr is your guy, but Carr is not viewed as a great quarterback. And then even after getting rid of Derek Carr, it's like, man, imagine they would have just kept him. Not that I thought the Raiders would be any good, but at least Adams has a good relationship with the quarterback, where Jimmy G was terrible. And now you got two guys, and when you have two quarterbacks, you really have no quarterbacks. So let me play more of Davante Adams. This is him on Netflix Receiver saying he needs to get out of Vegas. Cut to.
I got to get the out of here before I lose my life. I ain't never been hit this many times in my career. Every game I get up.
So where are you going to go to? And I know there's been an off season, and maybe that could cool him off a little bit. But once again, as I said, I don't believe when it's actually playing on the field and you go through the entire season that he'll still be cooled off. I think he's going to be, maybe even more heated, because Davante Adams is now 31. He's getting up there in age for a football player, especially a wide receiver. And let's say he has 3 more elite potential seasons left in him. You don't want to waste one of those when you basically have accomplished everything you can, and you're already, closing in on 11,000 yards, and, you're going to, when it's all said and done, have well over 1,000 receptions. You'll have him in all likelihood over 100 touchdowns, even though he's definitely have over 100 touchdowns. He had 95. So from a statistical standpoint, you already have the makings of a Hall of Fame career. You go have 2-3 more really good seasons. I know it's difficult with the Hall of Fame with wide receivers. There's always a logjam at that position, but you should be a Hall of Famer. I would be surprised if Davante Adams is not wearing a gold jacket and has a bust in Canton, Ohio one day. But why are you playing the game? And even though you make a ton of money and stats are important to you, talked about being a first-team All-Pro without Rodgers, you already accomplished that. The only real thing to check off that resume is to go win a Lombardi trophy. And with the Raiders, you don't got a chance to do so. So a lot of people are going to throw out this idea of Davante Adams playing with the Jets. Now, the Jets have a heck of a roster, but more importantly, there's that prior relationship with Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. This is via Vegas Sports Today. This is Aaron Rodgers at a golf tournament, and he made it pretty clear. I know Bart Scott said this was doctored with. I don't understand how. And he was talking about playing golf with Davante Adams again. But I take this audio for how it sounds and what it's worth. And I think these are Aaron Rodgers' true thoughts. He makes it clear he wants to play with Davante Adams again.
I think Luke Getsy's going to utilize Davante Adams good in the new Raiders offense.
I love Luke Getsy. He's a fantastic coach.
Awesome.
I love Davante. I can't wait to play with him again.
Great. Love to hear it.
Yeah.
There you go. Aaron Rodgers. He is the ultimate reality TV guy, Aaron Rodgers. And I watch, you guys know this, a ton of reality TV. If you told me that Aaron Rodgers is getting brought in, I don't know who he's dating these days, Aaron Rodgers, but let's say whoever he's dating gets on the Real Housewives of New Jersey, Rodgers would be the star of that show. No offense, Melissa Gorga, and I'm Team Gorga over Teresa Giudice. But, you thought Tiki was a big deal. The great Tiki Barber, who works on the Hall for most of it, he was on Real Housewives of New Jersey. Imagine if Aaron Rodgers got on the Real Housewives of New Jersey. Because this dude is made for reality TV. And he really is. He's already throwing it out there, dangling the carrot. It's not the first time about playing once again with Davante Adams. Here is also our very own Boomer Esiason. He was on his very popular morning show this AM on the CBS Sports Network and also WFAN in New York, Boomer and Geo. And Boomer Esiason said Davante Adams to the Jets could maybe happen as soon as this summer. Listen up.
I'm hearing that this is going to happen, if it does happen, somewhere in late August, early September.
Really?
Yeah, and the cap hit for him is $25 million.
Why would it take that long?
I'm not sure about why it would take that long, but Davante's never going to come out publicly and say, I want to leave the Raiders. But you do hear in this wide receiver program where he does this, I got to get out of here before I get killed. I mean, he says that, but I don't see him saying that publicly. I don't see him going to the media and saying, get me out of here. I can see him saying to his agent, much like he did it to Green Bay, the same type of thing.
Here's what I'll say. And, I've already said it in this segment. I think he's going to be there this year. I do. I don't anticipate with a dead cap being $40 million for Davante Adams that he's off the Raiders at the start of the season. Potentially, could they trade him by the deadline? I guess. But I think he's going to be a good soldier, even though he's clearly frustrated last year. And he didn't want McDaniels to be there, and he was right. And he didn't want Jimmy G to be the quarterback anymore, and he's right. But I think he's going to give Antonio Pierce, out of respect for Antonio Pierce, one last chance, and the Raiders one last chance. But I don't think it's going to go well enough with Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell, where after this year, Davante Adams is like, yeah, I'm a Raider for life. And the dead cap does drop down next year with 2 years left in the contract to $15 million in 2025, $15.7 million, and then $7.85 million in 2026. So I do think he'll be off the Raiders at the end of this season. But the NFL trade deadline, and it would not surprise me if Rodgers is already pushing for it now, tries to push for it then. And the 2024 trade deadline is set to be on November 5th. So let's just give you I think it's the first eight or so games of the Raider season. They're at the Chargers, that could be a win. They're at the Ravens, probably a loss. They then play the Carolina Panthers, that should be a win. Then the Cleveland Browns, that's a toss-up, but you know what? That's a loss. That's a loss. Cleveland's a damn good team. Then they're at the Broncos. They could win that game. They play the Steelers. Probably a loss. They're at the Rams. Probably a loss. They play Kansas City. Probably a loss. And they're at the Bengals. Probably a loss. So, all right, Chargers potentially a win. Carolina potentially a win. Denver potentially a win. And I guess there's a chance they could beat the Steelers. But at most, that's 9 games before the trade deadline. At most, we're talking about maybe 4 wins for that team. So, yeah, you'd still be in the race to go make a wild card spot, so you're probably not demanding a trade. But if they're only like 2 wins, if they're like 2-7 to start the year, or maybe going into that week before the trade deadline, they're 2-6. Wouldn't shock me if Adams says, hey, let's get out of this now, but I just don't know if the Raiders will do it. I think the Raiders will wait until the offseason, quite frankly, and it's going to be fun to see where Davante Adams goes, but I do think this will be his final year as a member of the Silver and Black. All right, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll take a break. When we come on back, let's do a little bit on the soccer from yesterday. Because I'll just say this. Like, Nico, are you a big soccer fan, just wondering?
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay. So I'm curious on your thoughts about this, and I'll get to it on the other side, because I saw something yesterday that I just don't get, and it has to pertain to soccer. We'll tell you about that when we return.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it's time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INF or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Be listening later in the show. We might answer your question. You could thank O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs and get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Let me get to the soccer from yesterday. So here's what I'll say about the Euro Championship. Hold on a second. I had one of those pita chips during the break, Samter, and I think the pita chip just went down the wrong pipe there, but we're good. I think I got it out of the system. Anywho, the Euros yesterday. I thought that was good. I thought that was fun. You know, I'm not a soccer fan. I'm not going to pretend to be the soccer expert, but I thought it was like a really fun match, and it was intriguing between Spain and England, and Spain wins, and England. I don't know about you, Samter, and you're the soccer guru here. It seems like England is like the Cowboys. Like they once were the team, and now they just find, and I know they're in the Euro Championship, and the Cowboys would never get to a championship game. They can't get to an NFC title game, let alone a Super Bowl. But England, they score that goal to tie it up. It was in the 73rd or 74th minute. And you're thinking, okay, even though it's not a lock that it's going to get to extra time, but you're thinking it's probably heading that way. And then in the 86th minute, Spain scores that goal. That would be like Dak Prescott driving the ball down the field let's say the Cowboys only get to an NFC Championship game, driving the ball down the field with like 3 minutes to go, putting the ball in the end zone to tie up the game. And even though it's not a lock, like your defense could still choke, it gives you that thought, okay, maybe they're actually going to do it. That was my analysis yesterday of watching England. I'll get to the Copa America in just a second because I'll be very critical of that. But I thought the Euro was a very clean style, fun and entertaining style to watch, an easier style to watch. But man, England just can't get out of their own way.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, they've been to 2 straight Copa championships. They made a nice run in the World Cup last time as well. So England's actually doing very well. I wouldn't compare them to the Cowboys because the Cowboys are a team that has had significant historical success and then has been a joke of late. I compare them more to like maybe the 49ers or something along those lines, a team that's been there recently and getting close but just not getting over the hump.
Yeah.
And England has had success in the past, but they've never been the elite of the elite. They have one World Cup title back in the 70s, and other than that, they haven't been like a dominant, nation, dominant-wise. So the Cowboys don't fully work for me. But yeah, your analogy about the Dak Prescott and the defense is very similar. It's just so frustrating to see. And England played well, but Spain is one of those monster.
Now let me get to Copa America.
Yeah.
Trash. Okay? That game was...
The game or the whole surrounding everything?
All the above.
Okay.
The 0-0, just because you have a tie game doesn't mean you have a good game. I thought I was watching a football game, not a football. All right, I thought it was like football tackle. And I know the pitch, as they call it, was not in the greatest condition. Everyone's falling. Anytime someone gets within breathing distance, you have all this flopping. You had these players just falling down. It was like, go kill the man with the ball. That's what it was like. I did not find it entertaining. I was sitting there, and when they got to extra time, overtime, whatever it's called, I was like, oh, you know what? I would be fine sitting through this for 30 more minutes because I wouldn't mind seeing PKs. I wouldn't. But there was a big part of me with 80 minutes in where I'm like, just someone score and end this game. I thought it was very boring. Obviously, it stinks, even though they ended up winning, Argentina, that is, that Messi did go down. Terrible to see. His ankle, I couldn't even say it looked like he had a golf ball in it because that would be disrespectful. That wouldn't be doing it justice in the description. It looked like a bowling ball got injected into his ankle. That was disgusting. So that was like a legitimate injury, stinks. And obviously, we all know Messi. But
and think about how much it sucks for Inter Miami now, too.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That looked bad. He's probably going to miss some time.
Yeah, I don't know. Like Dr. David Chow, I think he said it was like a hamstring injury, and he was only going to be out like at best a month. But then I saw the ankle, and I'm like, I'm not an expert. I'm not a doctor, but that ain't no hamstring injury. But the Argentina-Colombia game, I just didn't find it exciting. I just thought the quality of play wasn't great, but Argentina scores. And this is the fascinating part to me. They score in overtime, 112th minute, so you still have 8 minutes left. The announcers, and I get it, when it's 0-0 and a team finally scores, it feels like the game is over. But the announcers were like, Martinez scored, and he's going to be the guy that, right afterwards that has the game-winning goal for Argentina, and then Colombia almost put the ball in or had a chance. It was like the ultimate touch-the-money moment. But the part that really annoyed me with Copa America, we talked about, it was in Charlotte last week, where it was Uruguay and it was Colombia. And it was the Uruguay players had to jump into the stands because the Colombia fans were like attacking their family members. I thought that would be the craziest thing. And this is the point I don't get. I don't get soccer fans. I'm sorry. Like yesterday, I think it was mainly the Colombia fans. They show up and they think they're just going to be able to get in without a ticket. Like, I've been to some pretty big events. Could you imagine me going to the Super Bowl last year and showing up thinking I'm going to get in without a ticket? And then a lot of these fans actually got in. And that's why they had to delay the start time. Like, where's the security? And we're having the World Cup here in 2 years, and you have people just basically invading and getting into the stadium that aren't supposed to be there. And I saw one guy, he paid a fortune to go there, and he couldn't get in the stadium because too many people were in the stadium, and he actually bought tickets. And he paid for all the airfare. So that was crazy. And then, let me tell you this. I'm a huge sports fan. You could say that, like, one team of mine, and let's say I've never seen them win, or even if I did see them win before, and they're playing in a championship game, if I had to crawl through a vent to go see them play, to get access into the stadium, easily I would not do that. It's like, I don't understand the mentality here. Like, Marco, you're a big soccer guy, right?
Big is strong. I enjoy the international soccer stuff.
You know what?
Big is strong.
I'm not a big soccer fan. I have heard you numerous times throughout the year talking about soccer fans, so maybe it's just my luck or lack of it.
Love the World Cup. Love the Euro Cup. The big, giant events, yes. Went to a bunch of matches in the World Cup in '94.
Like a little fugazi.
Again, watching the Premier League, not doing it. That's so. Let's not
You're not
make
watching
it
Inter
strong.
Miami with Messi in the MLS?
No, not even a little bit.
But I heard you're a big Freddie Adu fan
But
at one point.
I did grow up with Serie A on my TV every Sunday, whether we liked it or not, because we had one TV in the house. So my father, big in Italian soccer, I grew up around it.
And Marco's parents, you don't mess with them.
Well,
if you mess with them, you got the business.
But my
you got the wooden spoon.
My parents are born and raised in Italy, so my father, that's his whole life.
Yeah.
So he played it until he was, I don't know, I think he was 60 when we told him to stop. You know, like.
But how about these crazy fans?
No, never made any sense.
I've never seen anything like that.
But it's not new.
It happens all the time.
It's not new. That's the part that doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense. And I get it, and I understand when it's with your teams, it makes zero sense. When it becomes into like the international play, when it becomes the national, there's something about nationalism that gets everybody a little bit crazy.
Oh, yeah. You can
So
say
I
that.
guess that's an added element to these things. But there is some mentality that thinks that this is okay, and it's asinine.
You're wearing a Yankees hat. Could you imagine? And let's say you're like Marco, crazy sport fan, all that. Game 7 of the World Series. The Yankees are in it. Could you imagine showing up to the stadium thinking you're going to get in and you could just barge in without a ticket?
No, again, you're either gonna buy the ticket or you're gonna go somewhere to watch it, whether it's at home or somewhere else.
Sports bar, something like that. Yeah.
You can watch the game. You don't have to be there. It's not 1953 where if you can't get in the crowd, you can't watch the game. That doesn't make any sense to be able to do stupid things like this. But at least there's some sort of I gotta watch it somehow. You can watch it anywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere you want. This is beyond stupid.
And also, I was texting with a friend of mine who works in Miami. He works for 560 WQAM. He's the producer for the afternoon show, Hockman and Crowder, Alejandro Solana. He is a huge Uruguay fan. So he went to Charlotte, and he was at that match where the Colombia fans were attacking the Uruguay family's players. He was there in a section that was mainly Colombia fans, and he was with this 70-year-old father. And they're just cheering on their team, like not doing anything crazy out of line. And one of the fans pushed his father, who's 70 years old, to the floor. You know what? I wouldn't go see a soccer game for many reasons. You could pay me. Let's be real. Everyone has a price. I'm not going to be a fraud here. But I have no desire to go to one of these matches if this is like I sometimes think going to football games can get crazy.
Yeah.
As much as I love football, I'm talking American football, what I saw at this Copa America is crazy.
Yeah, and I will say this, and I've been to enough football games where you do kind of like, oh, geez, like this is going to get out of hand, and you're close to a section where the most that I ever felt like this could get really bad was in '94, the World Cup, when I actually saw Italy play Nigeria in the quarterfinals in Boston, at Foxborough, the old Foxborough.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, there were times where I was legitimately concerned that this was going to get out of hand, and if this section completely went down, do I have to fight people that I don't want to fight? I mean, yeah, I was younger, but it was still the idea. Like, I got
over sports.
I got to protect myself. I'm not sure if we're going to get to the end of this game before having to throw hands with people I don't know just to keep myself from getting destroyed if this thing gets out of control.
And it happens all the time with soccer. Whenever you see something crazy with fan behavior, I know it happens in other parts.
No, you see it in other parts, other sports.
But to
everywhere.
this level with soccer,
stupid.
I've never seen anything like it consistently.
The part that makes no sense is it almost feels like it's okay. It's become to the point where it happens all the time. You know that's what it's going to be like. What do you mean? So we made this at some point like mainstream? Like, no.
Well, let's be real. You and I probably couldn't fit through a vent to get into a stadium.
No, hell no.
Could you imagine crawling through a vent to get entry to see a sporting event?
But again, like you're watching the Copa America final. Is it Shawshank? Like, what are we doing? ridiculous. Like, how did that go through your mind? You can watch the game on TV. Is it that much different?
Like, do
Is
you
it
have
that
to be
hard?
there in person,
Come on. We all like to be there. We all like to have the environment. We all
Get
like
a
the
ticket.
atmosphere. Yeah, if you can't afford the ticket, that's understandable. Watch the thing on TV.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will come on back. Samter has a few questions for me. I'll give you some answers. It is a Monday, so we'll do some onside, offside update time first. Here he is, a man that will not be crawling through event or will not be trying to gain access to a soccer event if he didn't have a ticket. He is Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
All right, Zach, a home run derby takes center stage tonight. You got Orioles shortstop Gunnar Henderson getting his first chance at trying to bring home that title.
Looking forward to it. I'm honestly just wanting to be competitive out there. But, yeah, if I can put up a competitive round, then I'll be happy. But, yeah, obviously going to go and try and win it. But, yeah, just going to do my best out there.
Now, along with the Orioles shortstop, there'll be Alec Boehm of the Phillies, Guardians, Jose Ramirez, Teoscar Hernandez of the Dodgers. You got Rangers, Adolis Garcia, Bobby Witt Jr. from the Royals, Braves, Marcelo Zuna, of course, a two-time champion, and Pete Alonso looking to tie Ken Griffey Jr. for the most all-time at 3.
Really looking forward to it. I mean, it's every year that I've done it, it's just been a continuation of a childhood dream that's come to reality. So I'm just really blessed, really thankful, but I'm really looking forward to compete.
Now, a bit of a change for the rules this year. No bracket system, so all 8 participants, top 4 home run totals will move on. Semifinals will then seed each of the remaining hitters based on the home run totals from the first round. If there is a tiebreaker in the first round, the advantage goes to the player with the longest home run of the round. And Vikings wide receiver Jordan Addison arrested Friday near L.A. International Airport on suspicion of driving under the influence. I'm Marco Belletti.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Check out our new and improved website at infinitysportsnet.com. That's infinitysportsnet.com.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's onsides, offsides with Zach Gelb.
All righty, Samter, what do we got cooking today?
All right, well, our boy Calvin Johnson is clearly the best receiver in Lions history, but recently there was some animosity between the player and the team. However, it appears that all of the drama is gone after the Lions announced today that Megatron will be inducted into their, quote, Pride of Lions to have his name retired in the rafters. Onside, offside, Calvin Johnson is a top 5 receiver of all time.
Oh, that's a great question. So, like, the first 3 that come to mind. Let me just see if you could get the first 3 that I'm thinking of.
Jerry Moss T.O.
Right? Those are the 3. Now...
And there's a 4th that I think has kind of entered that conversation. That's my clear number 4.
I don't know if he's a clear number 4, but I would put this guy in front of Calvin Johnson. Larry Fitzgerald?
That's my number 4.
Then it's like, who would be the next name? You know, Michael Irvin? Do you go Steve Largent? You know, I'm sure you could pull guys from like the 40s and the 50s. I'm going to say because of the lack of playoff resume. Because, right, Larry Fitzgerald didn't win a Super Bowl, but he had one of the greatest postseasons we've ever seen. That didn't result in a championship. He's a top 10, but I think he's just on the outside of being a top 5 wide receiver of all time. So I'm going to go offside there.
Offside.
And it's funny, you look at his numbers, they're not top 5, top 10 numbers.
He also retired early.
He only played like 8 or 9 years. So he didn't have that longevity like Jerry Rice with his 20 years. And we'll get to Jerry Rice in a little bit, but hold off on that. Hold your britches for that one.
Yeah, talking about players that retired early. Terrell Davis, I saw he got hauled off a plane, according to TMZ today, in handcuffs after an incident with a flight attendant. I was reading it was about... I didn't read the whole thing yet, but it was...
I read the whole story.
It was like his kid asked for like a cup of ice.
Yes. And he tapped the flight
and they
attendant.
didn't get the cup of ice, and he just tapped the flight attendant and said, "Can I get ice?" And then I guess they thought it was an aggressive tap. The flight attendant?
And the FBI came onto the plane after they landed, handcuffed him without even telling him what was going on.
The FBI over a cup of ice?
Well, so the FBI handles, the feds.
I know, but a cup of ice?
Yeah. Anything Airline related goes right to the feds. It's crazy.
That one at first, when I briefly read it coming back from break, like the first few paragraphs, I'm like, this doesn't add up. Either the flight attendant was just having a bad day or there's something that we're not being told here from the Terrell Davis side, but I didn't get that. Anyway, let's continue.
Now, the Falcons made tight end Kyle Pitts the 4th overall pick in 2021, but after a historic rookie season, over 1,000 yards, Pitts has largely been a disappointment. Now, new offensive coordinator Zach Robinson admits the team is going to utilize Pitts differently, saying, quote, he's learning basically 2 positions, some tight end and some receiver. We'll move him around the formation, use him as a blocker, use him as a receiver. We'll use him all across the board, end quote. Onside, offside. Kyle Pitts will still develop into the elite level tight end he was expected to become.
I can't say elite level. Do I think he's better than what he showed so far? Absolutely. Do I think he could be a very good tight end? Yes. But I'm not going to go into the camp of an elite level tight end just what I've seen so far out of the NFL, even though I don't think they've used him the right way. So Kyle Pitts will still develop into the elite level tight end he was expected to become. I would go offside on this one.
Offside. Now here comes the Jerry Rice story.
This was wild.
So wild. Over the weekend, celebrities gathered at the American Century Golf Classic tournament. We always have a guest come on. John Smoltz is one of the guys who always comes to promote it. Greg Maddox as well. Lots of really big names that come out there, including
Paul O'Neill.
Not Paul O'Neill, accordingly.
Well, Paul O'Neill, we had him do the read. We thought it was for the golf tournament because it came from the same PR guy, and it was actually to promote his beer. Paul went with it, and at the end of the interview, he's like, hey, you guys never promoted my beer.
He's like, I have no idea what golf tournament you're talking about, but it sounds cool. Now, one of the celebrities who was at this Celebrity Century Classic was the great Jerry Rice.
Yes.
However,
the GOAT.
I mean, maybe the football all-time GOAT. Who knows?
Nah, it's not.
I mean, Brady's the all-time QB GOAT, but is Jerry the overall player? Who knows? Anyway, however, things got off the rails quick with Jerry when a Chiefs reporter asked Rice a seemingly innocuous question.
Okay, do the Chiefs have a good enough receiving core this year to win again?
You a oh, you know that. If you want some, come get some.
It's the craziest thing that's ever happened in my life. Asked him if the Chiefs receiving core was good enough to win another Super Bowl.
Now, what we couldn't hear also in the video, but is clear when he's saying it, he says, I will bleep you up.
Yeah. We condensed that, so just to be clear, they asked the question, Rice walked away, and then he came back. So I heard the reporter say he thought that Rice was about to issue an apology, and then he was like, no, we're about to drop hands here. If you want some, come get some.
Now, Rice later said he got upset because he felt the question was a shot at the 49ers, his old team, for losing to a team without good receivers like the Chiefs. Clearly, I don't think that was the case, but who knows? Onside, offside, you are siding with Jerry Rice in this situation.
Absolutely not. I'm going offside here.
Offside.
And it's easy. And I've been in this position before. You get a legendary player, right? Everyone knows Jerry Rice is the greatest wide receiver of all time. I've done local radio or be a local media person, and you ask the greatest wide receiver about your local team. I don't think that was a slight at the 49ers. It's a fact the Chiefs won a few Super Bowls now, 2 of them, with subpar wide receiving rooms. So I thought Jerry Rice came off overly sensitive there, and he took it the wrong way. And then sometimes, right, we all know when you're of the fame and greatness of Jerry Rice, and you maybe think you're in the wrong, you then double down and even show that you're more in the wrong here. That's crazy. Absolutely crazy to me.
Now, the Golden State Warriors are entering a new era without the Splash Brothers as Klay left for Dallas. However, new reports say the Warriors, quote, have been the most engaged team with Utah for Lauri Markkanen. So onside, offside, the Warriors are would be better with Markkanen than they would have been with Klay.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they're going to go win a championship, but I would much rather have the younger player than Klay Thompson, who it was time to go move on and see what Lauri Markkanen, who's a good player, can be with Steph Curry. So if they're able to get that done, yeah, the Warriors would be better with Markkanen than they would be with Klay Thompson for this upcoming season. Not all time, obviously, because that's a great dynamic duo, Steph and Klay, but just for the future, they would be better with Lauri. So I would go on sides for that one.
Now, do you think that they would become a contender in any way if they added Markkanen?
Nah, they'd be a better team.
Like a 6 seed, 5 seed level?
Yeah, I'm not going to say that they're a top 3 in the West and then all of a sudden they're going to be contending for a championship. They'd be a good team. Not very good, not great, not championship caliber, but a good team, solid team.
Now, the home run derby is tonight, led by two-time champ Pete Alonso, looking to tie Ken Griffey Jr. for 3 home run derby championships. However,
that's crazy. That's even a stat.
I know.
Who cares?
Whatever. Wikipedia. However,
they need Boomer back on this. Back. God.
That was the best part of it.
Give me Chris Berman. Come on.
I have a great, terrible and great with our old boy Mikey Biseglia home run derby story that I can tell another time.
Okay.
However, of the 8 participants, only 3, Jose Ramirez, Gunnar Henderson, and Marcell Ozuna, are in the top 13 of all the long ball hitters in baseball this year. The top 2 names in the sport, Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani, while they've participated in the past, are not participating this year. As we know, the NBA has a hard time convincing players to compete in the All-Star challenges, like the dunk contest as well. So onside, offside, leagues should be allowed to force star players to compete in All-Star weekend activities.
I'm going to say offside here.
Offside.
And I don't have a problem with Judge not doing it since he's done it before, and Ohtani not doing it since he's done it before. Like, I thought it's lame that LeBron never did the slam dunk contest, but at least they tried. And also, Ohtani, right, coming off the Tommy John, I know he's hitting this year, but he's not pitching. And I don't fault Aaron Judge for not doing it, even though I would like to see them participate because they're big stars, but I don't think they should be forced to do so.
All right, so maybe the best audio that you're going to hear on the internet all week comes from our buddy down the hall, former DA show producer Sean Marash. Now, apparently, Marash had some damage to his ceiling over the weekend, which allowed, not surprisingly here in New York, a rat and, more surprisingly, a possum to enter his home. So he did what every real man does in that situation. He called his daddy.
Don't get the out of it. Get it out of the house. Ah!
Oh, it's wet.
Dad, what the Get it out of the house. Get it out of the house.
The thing about Sean Marash, for those who don't know him, the more upset and agitated he gets,
the higher
his voice goes. He starts out pretty high, but at the end, I feel like he's breaking
Different
glass.
octave.
There's dogs barking in the background. It's like a dog whistle. It's amazing. So onside, offside.
He could be like Mariah Carey there with the octave that
Seriously,
he got to.
oh my goodness. I mean, he needs to try out for American Idol with that voice. Onside, offside, you are okay with Marash calling his dad to help get rid of those critters.
I saw that video, and that's the first thing. You're going to have all these tough New Yorkers be like, oh, what a wimp. You got to call your father? Oh, what a jerk you are. I'm actually fine with it on sides. Because, like, I used to go to a sleepaway camp, and I was always afraid whenever I would see a skunk. Like, the bears wouldn't, anytime I saw a bear wouldn't make me petrified, but the skunk would do so. If I saw a possum, absolutely. When I was a kid, a raccoon got into our walls, and it scared the crap out of me. So there's no doubt about it. I have no problem calling my dad. Hey, Dad, go try to slap shot out this possum out of my house, because Mraz's dad showed up with a hockey stick and was ready to go to war. Except Mraz's dad looked like Ryan Strome or Jack Rosselvick for the Rangers, because I don't think it was the greatest accuracy. But just make sure, Sean, shut down the bar for the next month. Make sure it's good to go for our annual Labor Day weekend get-together to go watch college football. You know, we need John Taffer in there. Shut it down, and improve those possums and get them out.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, away we go. Hour number 3 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Last year in the regular season, Georgia was undefeated. And then in the SEC championship game, we know that they lost to Alabama 27-24. They did not make the college football playoff. And then they did go up against Florida State. Florida State barely had like any of their players participating from, at the time, their undefeated team. And Georgia kicked the crap out of Florida State. They won 63-3. But if you look back at that Georgia schedule, and I remember saying this last year, I did not know, or I didn't think there was really going to be a game for Georgia until the SEC championship game. You look back at the Georgia schedule from a year ago, UT Martin, Ball State. All right, everyone gets cupcakes early on. They played South Carolina. It was a 10-point game. UAB, Auburn, Kentucky, who was a top 20 team in the nation at the time, and they killed them 51-13. Vanderbilt, Florida. And then at the end of the season, they had some top 15, top 20 matchups. Missouri, but you knew that Georgia, even though that game was close, and I remember watching that game, but you knew Georgia wasn't going to lose, even though, the first time, I remember watching that game at a bar in New York City. And there was Missouri fans, I think they were coming from a rehearsal dinner or something like that, or they were going to rehearsal dinner. And if I recall, that first half, you thought, okay, maybe. You didn't go into the game thinking Missouri was going to win. But I want to say that Missouri did an excellent job in that first half. Yeah, it was 10-10 at halftime. So, okay, good game there when you look back at that. But you go through, the Ole Miss game, 52-17, Tennessee 38-10, and then Georgia Tech was a little bit closer to what you thought, 31-23. But there wasn't really a marquee game on the Georgia schedule until the SC championship game when they did go up against Alabama. There wasn't a game heading into it where you're like, oh, wow, there's palpable buzz. Even when Ole Miss was ranked 9th when they played them. But you look at their schedule this year, the Georgia schedule, just from afar right now, they got at least 4 or 5 games that are really damn exciting. And I think Georgia's the team to beat, to be clear, in college football. But they open the season up against Clemson. That's a noon game on ABC on the 31st of August. All right, they then play Tennessee Tech after that. Who cares? They then play Kentucky after that. It's a 7:30 game on ABC. That's not going to really move the needle. But then they are in Tuscaloosa to close out September when they're at Alabama. So right off the bat, in their first 4 games of the season, you got Clemson, you got Alabama. Those are bigger games than anything they had last year in the regular season. Even with the questions of my concern with Dabo Swinney moving forward as the head football coach of Clemson. They play Auburn after that. They play Mississippi State. Then they are at Texas on October 19th. Hello. Texas, to me, is a top 5 team in college football. They then play Florida. I don't know what to make out of Florida. It's a big year for Billy Napier. Ole Miss has top 10 odds to win the college football national championship game. They're at Ole Miss, so that's going to be fun. Tennessee could be a solid team this year. You get them back-to-back weeks, and then you wrap up the season, UMass and Georgia Tech. That's a pretty damn good schedule. When you at least have it, big game-wise, Clemson, at Alabama, at Texas, at Ole Miss, and then Tennessee. You could argue that there are 5 games on that schedule this year that will have a bigger feel than when they were played or if they weren't played when you look at the teams that they did play last year. So Georgia, even though I think the world of Carson Beck heading into this year, and Kirby Smart is now the face of college football, even though I look at Kirby and I don't think he's polarizing, obviously SEC football fans will hate Kirby Smart if you're not Georgia, but Nick Saban had a bigger feel than Kirby Smart, even though at times Kirby Smart made Alabama look human. Yes, Smart is the face of college football, but I don't think he's polarizing yet. Where with Dabo, he was polarizing. With Saban, he was polarizing. Kirby Smart has the title of being the king of college football right now, has the title of being the face of college football. But if Jim Harbaugh came back to Michigan, I think Jim Harbaugh, even though I would think Georgia would be a better team than Michigan heading into this year, I would think Jim Harbaugh would be the face of college football. He just won a national championship. I know Kirby Smart has 2 as a head coach, but he's more polarizing than Kirby Smart is. So we'll see with more winning and more success, which I've had a ton of it in Georgia, if you start to see Kirby Smart become a little bit more polarizing. But if Georgia wins a championship this year, and also having to go through more teams with it going to 12 in the college football playoff and a very tough regular season schedule. As much as I think the world of Georgia going into this year, and right now they'd be my pick to win the national championship, I would be surprised come SEC championship, the championship game, conference championship weekend, if Georgia's undefeated. Like, if they go undefeated this year in the regular season with the likes of Alabama, Clemson, Texas, Ole Miss, Tennessee on their schedule, that's going to be a heck of an effort. Where last year, they were undefeated through the regular season. You were like, yeah, who'd they really beat? Like, what was your best win? Crushing Ole Miss last year? And then when they went up against the best team on their schedule, they lost to Alabama in that SEC championship game. So I'll just simply ask this. Who is the biggest challenger to Georgia this year? We've seen Georgia win 2 out of the last 3 national championships. And last year, they only had 1 loss on their season resume. And because it was a 14 playoff, which I'm not against, and I think, like, there's really only been 2 times you could maybe argue that you needed more than 4. Last year was one of those, just because Florida State went undefeated and they left them out because of the injury to their quarterback in Jordan Travis. And then you had Georgia on the outside looking in because of the Alabama upset in the SEC championship game. So if you wanted to tell me we needed more teams last year, sure, you don't need 12, but 6 last year would have been a pretty damn good number, because that means Florida State probably gets in, and that means Georgia gets in as well. But going to 12 is just too many. However, with that being said, we talked about this in the open. I think there's a difference in terms of how open it is to get a playoff spot, because I think there's 4 teams without a doubt right now as we enter the season, the 4 best teams in college football. And, you know, even though Hickey has a lot of wrong opinions, I do value Hickey's opinion on college football because I think he's extremely knowledgeable. And I've said this before, Hickey probably knows the most. Doesn't mean his predictions are right, but he probably knows the most about college football than anybody here at the network in the Monday through Friday lineup, whether it's a host, producer, board op, whatever, update guy. To me, I think Hickey knows the most about college football. And I said to Hickey, right on the spot, who are the 4, if it was a 4-team playoff, and I know, right, that 2 of the teams are in the SEC, and you've seen 2 teams get in the SEC before, but if you just had to tell me who are the 4 best pound-for-pound teams in college football, and I had my list, I said, who would yours be? And he goes, obviously Georgia, obviously Ohio State, and then he said Oregon and Texas. And those are my 4. So I think those are the 4 teams where it's championship or bust for those 4 teams, but I don't think Alabama or LSU or Ole Miss or Florida State, they have national championship or bust, in my opinion, expectations. So that leaves the door open in a big way for the other 8 spots. And I get it, one's occupied by a it's no longer Power 5, Core 4, whatever you want to call it, conference champ. So there's like 7 or 8 spots left, and those spots are really open. But in terms to get to the top of the mountain, I don't think it's all that open. Right now, I could only see 4 teams, definitely Georgia, even with my questions about Ryan Day, definitely Ohio State, and I would say Oregon, yes, and Texas, that's like a tricky one. That was the only one that I was a little bit tricky about thinking about having them as championship buster expectations, because I know that Oregon goes into the Big Ten, but Texas is going into the SEC. And there's a difference there. So Texas going into the SEC, I think, is a bigger question of how their game's going to translate. And even Nick Saban shared the same sentiment today than it would in terms of Oregon going into the Big Ten. But I look at those 4 teams, and if we talk about chasing Georgia, who's the team that's got the best chance to knock off Georgia? I think it's Ohio State this year. And their roster is so talented. I like that their new quarterback coming over from Kansas State, wasn't afraid, Will Howard, to embrace the expectations and say, hey, we know what the standard here is. It's to go win the championship. The Big Ten, even though they've added some more teams, sure, you're gunning up against Oregon, but Michigan's going to take a step back after losing Harbaugh and losing J.J. McCarthy, losing Blake Corum. But you look at Ohio State, yeah, there's questions if their coach could win the big game. And I know he's been in a national championship game before. And the quarterback's going to be improved from what it was a year ago with Kyle McCord. But from a team standpoint, I do believe Ohio State is the second best team in college football. And then after that, I would say it's Oregon. And I love Lanning. Now, Lanning got to win a big game. You know, Lanning's highlight can't be beating the snot out of Colorado back in week 4 a year ago. And they had 2 chances to take care of Washington this past season, and they couldn't get the job done. So I think Lanning's going to be a great coach, but he's now got to go reflect that on the field. But it's clear Phil Knight is just pumping in NIL money with the recruits that they're getting. And I have no problem with that. But also, it's like you look at the quarterback position. Bo Nix was tremendous the last 2 years. What we saw from Bo Nix at Auburn, I didn't think Bo Nix was ever going to be a really good quarterback, or dare I say it, a great quarterback at Oregon. But Dylan Gabriel comes in with a more impressive resume and a more consistent resume and more production with what he did at UCF in Oklahoma than what Bo Nix did when he was going to Oregon. So you could argue that there's not going to be a fall off at the quarterback position this year with Dylan Gabriel going to Oregon. But my question about Oregon is, will they be able to win the big game? Texas, my question is going to the SEC and how that's going to impact them. And I think Will Howard at Ohio State is going to be fine, but can Ryan Day get the job done? Because Ryan Day, you look at his record with him being the head football coach at Ohio State, he don't have that many losses on it. But when you lost 3 straight times to Michigan, and he's 56-8 in his career, like a lot of us would sign 56-8 coaching a football team, especially with the brand of Ohio State. But when you've lost the last 3 times to Michigan, you haven't won a Big Ten championship the last 3 years, that's when pressure's going to come to you. Because you go 56-8 at, let's say, Mississippi State, or you go 56-8 at Ole Miss, or you go 56-8, let's say, at Oregon, right? And I'm not saying all those schools are equal, obviously. But you go 56-8 there, you're going to be like a god. But when you go 56-8 at Ohio State, and you haven't won a national championship, and when Urban Meyer would just destroy Michigan and beat them, and it doesn't even matter if the game was close, you knew Michigan wasn't going to win. And now all you do is lose to them, that 56-8 is very misleading. So Georgia, to me, is clearly sitting at the top of the mountain right now. And grabbing onto both heels of Georgia would be Ohio State. And then I would say grabbing onto one leg of Ohio State would be Oregon, with like a hand about to get on the second. And then I think Texas is right there, and they're closing in ground. And I give a lot of credit to Texas last year with Quinn Ewers, and now Quinn is back for another go at it. And who would have ever thought that when Arch Manning committed there over a year ago? But now Quinn Ewers is back, and as long as he can stay healthy, we saw what he was capable of a year ago. So right now, to me, Georgia and Ohio State are the 2 best teams. Georgia 1, Ohio State 2. Oregon is right there. And then just below Oregon is going to be Texas. But those are really the only 4 teams that I look at that say, okay, I could craft the argument why they could win a championship this year. I'm talking about a national championship. Like, I don't think Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, as much as I love him, I don't think in year 1 he's winning a championship. Ole Miss could be a very fun team this year. And I have intrigue on Ole Miss because they better make the college football playoff this year, but they're not winning a national championship. LSU, Brian Kelly, with your family, you better make the top 12, but I don't think you're winning a championship. James Franklin, you bet your ass you better make the playoff this year. And Drew Aller better get better, but I don't think you're winning a championship. Marcus Freeman, like, you have the ability to make the playoff this year with 12 teams, but I don't think you're winning a championship. Norvell, it's about consistency now, but I don't think you're winning a championship. Sharon Moore, I love you, but I don't think you're winning a championship this year. And same could be said for Tennessee. So college football people say it's more open now. Yeah, there's more opportunity because you have 12 teams getting into the playoff. But in terms of winning a championship, and it's ironic because we're going from 4 to 12, so you think there would be more teams with a legitimate chance to win a championship. You know, last year I had about 4 or 5 teams that I could realistically see winning a championship, and I still have pretty damn close to the same number of teams, if not less, realistically winning a championship this year. And in terms of taking down Georgia, who's won 2 out of the last 3, I would say, as much as it pains me to say this, and Michael Fry's probably loving this, So enjoy your preseason championship. As much as it pains me to say it, I would say Ohio State is the second best team and has the best chance to dethrone Georgia, followed by Oregon 3 and Texas 4. Now the question is, who would be the fifth team? That would be a great one. Ah, man. You know, they did lose Verse. They did lose Fisk. And I think DJ Uiagalelei is just a good quarterback, not a great quarterback, but putting DJU there to replace Jordan Travis, like not that big of a drop-off, but as much as I love Norvell, I can't say it. It may actually be Ole Miss. It may be Ole Miss. But then the duo, and I know it's football, you don't just win off duos, but DeBoer with Jalen Milroe, I think Milroe is going to be a better quarterback this year than he was last year, and I think he's going to be impacted greatly by getting Kalen DeBoer. So I'd probably look to Alabama or Ole Miss, but I don't feel great. Like, see how tough that is? 5 teams win a championship in college football. The first 2 are easy. The third one, Oregon, fine. Texas, okay, I could see it if I squint. But then after that, for the 15, it's like, ugh, you don't love those options. So is the best chance to dethrone Georgia this year? I think the obvious answer is Ohio State. 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227. We'll take a break. When we come on back, Nico, myself, and Samter will participate in a little Heisman Trophy draft. We'll get to that when we come on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The fun continues on the Infinity Sports Network.
Don't ever say we don't have objectivity on this show, because I can't stand Ohio State. I can't stand Penn State. And quite frankly, I think both are going to the college football playoff this year. I think Ohio State's second best team in college football behind Georgia. And while I don't think Penn State is elite, you don't need to be elite in this format to make the college football playoff. And I think Penn State will be in that like 9 to 12 range in terms of making the college football playoff. But I do expect my BFF, James Franklin, who can't win a big game, to be able to win enough games that may still not be big, but will still get him into the college football playoff. But I'll tell you, I was looking at Penn State's schedule, and I knew that they opened up against West Virginia. I'm fascinated by what the spread is of that game, because I think that's going to be a grinded-out type of game. And if they make Penn State a nice-size favorite there, that could be a big college football bet week 1. Penn State at West Virginia on August 31st with your boy plus the points. I'm sure there's already a spread out there, but that's just like a different level of looking at a spread now and making the pick now. Thinking about what a spread could be and then making the bet the week of or the day of or the day before, fine. But I'm not looking to get a line right now. Futures, different. In terms of week 1 spreads, no, I'm not going there. But we will do some futures right now. And we will do a Heisman Trophy draft. So I will get 3 picks, Nico will get 3 picks, and Samter will get 3 picks. Nico, heads or tails? If it's heads, you'll get to decide what pick you want. If it's, you'll call it, and then whatever it is, if you win, you'll get whatever pick you want. If not, Samter will then get to decide what pick he wants. Okay?
All right. Tails never fails.
All right. Well, 50% of the times it does, just so you know. So you're going tails?
Yes.
All righty. Let's see. It is tails. So what do you want? 1, 2, or 3?
I'm going to take the snake draft, right?
That would be correct. See? Smart guy.
I'm going to take the 3 picks. This way I can go back-to-back and have 3 and 4.
Gotcha. Cool. All righty. Samter, heads or tails?
Heads is beds. I don't know.
What?
I don't have a rhyme that he has. Tails never fails. I don't have one, but heads.
Okay. And it is tails. So I will then take the first pick.
Good. I wanted the second pick.
And then Samter will be sandwiched in the middle. Okay. Last week I predicted Carson Beck was going to win the Heisman. And it just shows you we could be whores in this social media world and in this broadcasting world. Because there's another name that now is right on the tip of the tongue for me. But since I did do a Sports Minute last week saying Carson Beck is going to win the Heisman, I'm going to stay with that pick. And I will take Carson Beck, quarterback, Georgia, to win the Heisman Trophy. All righty. First pick for Moist Mike. What do you got cooking?
You know, you played right into my hands. This is why I wanted the second pick. I knew you'd go Carson Beck 1 because I want this guy number 2. He's actually 4th in odds as far as Heisman, but I think he is going to absolutely dominate with your boy, Kalen DeBoer. Jalen Milroe is my first pick to win the Heisman.
Okay, that's a good pick. That was not the name, though, that I was thinking about taking. Nico, give me your first pick here.
All right, so I'm going to go with a guy that lost a lot of talent around him.
Well, actually, real quickly, before you give us our pick,
Okay.
give us your background as a college football fan, because I was not aware that you are a big college football fan. Since you don't work on this show every day, we were going to do 5 picks. I was going to get 5. Santa was going to get 5. But I was like, you know what? Nico's a good guy. I've talked to him enough. I'm like, let's see how big of a college football fan Nico is. And without me even telling you what you were doing, because I could have said, are you a big college football fan? You could have been like, no, not really. You were like, massive. So give me your college football fandom history.
All right, so I'm a diehard Michigan fan, and I know when I say that right away, it's like, oh, you're a front runner. I promise I've been a fan since 2011 when I was 12 years old, fell in love with Denard Robinson, turned on the TV and saw the Big House.
Yeah.
That's like...
Have you been to the Big House?
I have. I've been multiple times.
Electric.
I was actually in Houston for the national championship this past year.
And we didn't see each other with all those people?
I know, right?
Were you in like a nice hotel?
I was the one right across the street.
Oh, okay.
So when I was looking out my window at the parking lot. The corner where Mike Sanders still caught the interception.
Yeah.
I was back there, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Nice job. You didn't see me on the field after the game? You didn't start saying, Gelb, 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 Gelb. No? Come on. What are we doing? All right, give me a pick.
All right, so my first pick is going to be a guy. He lost a lot of talent with Adonai Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, and Jonathan Brooks all going to the NFL. I do still think that Quinn Ewers is going to be one of the best players in all of college football this year. Texas is still going to be just as good, if not better than they were last year when they made the college football playoff and lost to Washington. So give me Quinn Ewers with my first pick.
All righty. The guy that I said I was thinking of taking at number 1 is still on the board. So through the first round to win the Heisman Trophy, I have Carson Beck. Samter has Jalen Milroe. And Nico has Quinn Ewers. Who is your next pick?
All right, so I went with a guy that was 6th in odds. He's at plus 1,600. You mentioned earlier in this hour that Alabama and Ole Miss were the 2 teams that kind of seemed like the 5th
pick. This is a good pick.
Best, and I really, really, really like Jackson Dart.
Oh, not who I thought you were taking.
Really? Okay, yeah. I think Jackson Dart is a very, very good sleeper pick here at plus 1,600. I think Ole Miss has a chance to be really good. You mentioned it before, like I said, that they had a chance to be the 5th best team in the country. And with Lane Kiffin bringing back Jackson Dart for one more year, I think he's going to have a good opportunity to do it.
All righty. I thought you were setting that up, saying, because sometimes the young guns, the young dogs, they come out swinging, they come out barking. I thought you were going to say, you were talking about after Texas and also Georgia and Texas, who's the next best team in the SEC? You said Alabama. You said Ole Miss. I thought you were going to say, but you forgot somebody. That's what I thought, but it wasn't the case. So your second pick is Jackson Dart. Samter, who is your second pick? You already have selected Jalen Milroe.
Listen, I like Jackson Dart. That's a little bit of a reach in the second round there, dog. First pick of the second round, a little bit of a reach, but you know what?
You just dogged him? When have you ever used the word dog in your life?
That's a win. That's a loss. That's a win, dog.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going with the guy who's actually tied for first in odds to win the Heisman. He's coming from a big program. He's going to a place that just pumps out stats.
Bitch.
This is the guy I knew you were trying to steal from me, but I knew there was no way he was going to make it to the end of the second round. Dylan Gabriel,
it's a great
Oregon
pick.
Ducks. He is my pick. I'm absolutely winning this with Jalen Milroe and Dylan Gabriel as my 1-2.
So it's not really a robust year going into it with the Heisman Trophy. And I said last week, Carson Beck, right, will be on the best team, quarterback in maybe a down year. He'll have a very good year, and he'll probably win the Heisman. And then I was thinking about it earlier this morning, and I go, well, maybe I should have used the logic of I just know Dylan Gabriel's going to put up a ton of stats and big stats, prodigious stats, because of what Bo Nix was able to do the last 2 years. So I thought I was one away. That was the one that got away. I thought I was going to get both Carson Beck and Dylan Gabriel, and then Samter was like a little rat and just stole him from me. Okay. This was the guy that I thought Nico was going to take. Now, let me be clear. I'm usually pretty good with the pronunciations when it comes to college quarterbacks.
I know the pronunciation if you need help with it once you say it.
Tua Tagovailoa, DJ Uiagalelei. I'm not batting greatness here. You know, I'm not gonna get this one 10 out of 10 times. I'm going the Tennessee quarterback, Nico Iamaleava.
Iamaleava.
Okay.
Iamaleava.
Iamaleava.
Correct.
Okay.
I had him as a sneaky third, fourth round pick. The guy was a 5-star recruit, the second quarterback in his class, second overall player in his recruiting class. He's going to be an absolute star. The question is whether or not Tennessee is going to be good enough to win enough games in the SEC to get him into the Heisman talk. He's going to be great. Nico Iamaleava.
And also the other reason why I thought Nico was going to take him is because his first name is Nico. So that's a big part of it too. Now, oh boy. I was really trying to go non-quarterback here. And there's some names that jump out. But this is now pretty much turned into a quarterback award. I don't think this guy is the best offensive player on his team. He has two, and I mean two, excellent running backs. But I'm going to go along the lines of my Carson Beck theory. Now, I think Carson Beck is much better than this quarterback. But if Ohio State is ranked 1 at the end of the year, yeah, their running backs are going to get some play. Obviously, their stud wide receiver is going to get some play. But this is usually a quarterback award. So I will go Will Howard.
You know what? You got me back. I stole Dylan Gabriel from you. I thought you were going outside of the realm and not taking Will Howard.
Now, let me be clear. I'll trade you. You want Will Howard? I'll take Dylan Gabriel. I'll give you a future pick. Give you a pick for like the 2026 Heisman Trophy draft.
You know what? I like my big board. I'm confident in who I'm going to take. I'm good.
Marco.
I'm good.
He's serious. He's like, future pick. He was like mesmerized. He's like, what future pick is he talking about?
No, I was thinking of a future pick, like, giving me your next 4th round pick or something so I get back-to-back picks again.
Yeah, I'll give you the 4th round pick. There's no 4th round pick in this draft, but sure. I only got one more selection to make.
Yeah, that's true.
Or I have no more selections to make, excuse me.
So I am now between 3 guys for my last pick. And I honestly think that any 3 of these guys...
I know who you're going with.
They're way down on the list.
I know who you're going with.
But one dominated the best conference in college football. Another one is an up-and-coming quarterback whose coach we've had on a couple times and we love. But at the end of the day, I am going to go with the biggest name, the splashiest name.
Wait, now hold on.
The most exciting name.
I know who you're going with.
Yep.
But who are the two that you were teasing?
Brady Cook of Missouri, who I think is going to be an absolute monster.
And who was the quarterback that we've had as coach on quite a few times?
Jalen Daniels, who I think is going to be really good out of Kansas. Okay. But again, I just don't think Kansas is going to be good enough for him to get that real run.
Wait,
Jalen
before
Daniels
you give us the name,
very good.
Can I do something that will give away your pick if it's the way that I think you're thinking?
Do it.
Do the Shedeur Sanders, Rick Ross style.
Oh. I was battling also between Shedeur and Travis Hunter, but I'm going Shedeur.
Okay. 5 wins? Does that win the Heisman?
If he can stay upright, unlike in the video game that Travis Hunter was playing with the offensive line, dude's going to put up some numbers. He's got talent around him. And with the pressure and the eyeballs that are going to be on him, similar to like Johnny Manziel, once the ball starts rolling and you get that momentum going, Shedeur Sanders could take it home.
Do those Shedeur Sanders. Huh. Love that Rick Ross clip. Go ahead, Nico. Take us home.
All right, so there's a guy I feel like he gets forgotten about very easily. I want to say he had like one of the quietest 3,700-yard seasons last year, and that's Cam Ward. Transferring from Washington State, now goes to Miami. I think there's a lot of potential for him to have a really big year with the Hurricanes. I'm going with him with my third and final pick.
And a former zero-star recruit went to Incarnate Word, and then last year had a good start at Washington State, joined me. Was talking about a little Heisman buzz, but now going to Miami. I just don't know if Miami's going to be good enough. So that was a fun exercise. I took Carson Beck. Samter, I also took Nico. Give me the last name one more time.
Iyama Liava.
And Will Howard. Samter goes with Jalen Milroe, Dylan Gabriel, Shador Sanders. And Nico takes Quinn Ewers, Jackson Dart, and Cam Ward. All righty, let's fade out the music before we get to the update. I call... Ever since Sean Marash has departed the network to go down the hall, I call Marco Belletti El Capitan. That actually started before Marash officially left because Marash was claiming he was the locker room leader around here. And I said Marco is more of the locker room leader than Sean Marash. So our buddy Sean Marash down the hall was off for a full week and was supposed to return to work today. But he woke up this morning and he had a rat and a possum in his house. So let's play the audio one more time. This is our buddy Mraz, who now they don't let him use the name Mraz on WFAN, so he's Sean Morash, which, by the way, you'll like this story before I play you the audio. So this past weekend, I went up to Pine Forest Camp, which is the camp I went to as a kid, and I did a little broadcasting clinic, and some kid actually said, that, like one of the counselors of the camp, I've seen you before, and it's nothing to do with knowing that you went to this camp at my class at Indiana University. They actually showed a clip of you, and it was me in the Manti Te'o documentary. Now, at first, I thought maybe they were like showing an interview of mine that maybe went wrong, and they were like, this is how you don't interview, and this guy's a disgrace in the media, and then it was talking about controversy in the media and how things are handled. But I'm driving home late Saturday night from doing this clinic in the Poconos, and they said I'm going to stop off at my parents' house and spend all Sunday there. So my parents live in a 55 and up community. So I'm in the pool in the 55 and up community on Sunday, and I hear these two New Yorkers talking, and one goes, what do you think of the new afternoon show on WFAN? And I'm just sitting there, and they know I'm in they know that I do some shows in the Fan, and I work at Infinity Sports Network, but I'm just sitting there minding my business, sunglasses on, and they're like, I really like that Evan Roberts guy. He always gives an opinion. But they go, whoever that guy is, that's their producer, that's kind of a co-host. He said the Yankees would be in first place for the rest of the year, and the Mets would never see above 500 for the rest of the year. He couldn't be that moron, that freaking dope. He said some other words that I can't say on the radio.
Yeah, I would think so.
Couldn't be more wrong if he tried to. And I'm laughing there. And I thought it was very funny. But that same guy, his name is Sean Morash. This is what happened. He called his father over to his house to get a possum and a rat out of his house, and this is what it sounded like.
Don't get the out of it. Get it out of the house. Ah!
Oh, it's bled. He killed
Dad, what the Get it out of the house. Get it out of the house.
What are your thoughts on that whole incident at the Marash house, why he did not come into work today?
Now, that part of it I understand. You have ceiling tiles collapse. You have rodents in the house.
Young
you got to
kids
call
too, your
the
wife.
exterminator, and you got to be there to do. Yes, that's totally understandable. Not coming to work, get it.
You don't crush
and
him for it.
And I'm a big come to work guy.
Yeah.
But that I understand.
Boomer Esiason, I think, will crush him for it.
Yeah, but I understand that. You got to take care of your household, and you do have little kids, and you got to make sure that that's taken care of. No, I mean
devoured by a possum.
But I'm understand, like droppings and all that. Like you got to get that taken care of. And I don't know what the ceiling situation is, so that I understand. My issue is, you have kids. You're pushing 40. You got to call your dad for this,
right?
And you got to sound like. I mean, honestly, like a 7-year-old child while your father takes care of this for you?
Yeah.
That's my problem.
So,
at some point,
I'm not going to act like the tough guy here.
Be a man.
I think I would actually call my father in that situation.
Because you're afraid to I've seen this video, to get the hockey stick to get rid of the possum out of the house?
Yeah, that's actually a good point.
This is what you're afraid of?
I don't know. I mean, the possum I would be afraid of. The rat, not so much. The possum I think I'd be afraid of.
I didn't ask you to pick it up and hug it. I
Just
didn't ask you to
smack
cook
it with the hockey stick.
Well, but I mean, like, you got to just get
And
it
by
out
the way,
of the
Peter,
house.
we don't endorse that, by the way, just to be clear.
I'm just saying, you got to get it out of the house.
Okay. So you're saying if I just, like, gently glide the possum out the house?
I'm saying you got to do whatever you
Put a
got to
Twinkie
do.
on the other end.
You got to do whatever you got to do. You're a grown man who has 2 little kids. You're
Yeah, that's
pushing
true.
40.
And I'm just about to turn 30. He's pushing 40. So there's a little
What
bit
are
of
we
age.
doing? That's the part. And honestly, what you did do was you grabbed the phone to video you sounding like a 7-year-old kid screaming while your dad takes care of everything. No, that's a problem. That's a problem. What happens if dad's not there? The possum just lives there now.
It's a good question.
No, I can't have that.
I think
I
that the
get staying
possum-
home.
I'll tell you what's happened. If dad isn't there, I think he's yelling at his wife to get the possum out of the house.
That's even worse.
And that would be even worse.
Look,
that would be a disgrace.
There's levels here. Dad is bad. The wife is unacceptable. You call your mom? I know. I'm out.
I actually think Nancy Marash should be the most efficient.
Come on.
Knowing the Marash family, I think she would be the most efficient in getting rid of the possum.
And honestly, you're screaming like a child. And you did it on purpose because you want me to see this video.
Yeah.
No. Okay. No. Don't come to work. But grow a set. Be a man. Take care of your house, please. Take care of your house.
Mike Gundy once screamed.
You have children.
I'm
You
a
have children.
man. I'm 40. Mark was going to scream to Marash, be a man. You're almost 40.
Honestly, seriously. This feels like in The Godfather, if you've seen this, in the beginning, when Johnny Fontaine, I don't know what to do, and he's got his head in his hands, and he's weeping, and Marlon Brando grabs him. You can act like a man! That's what you have to do here. You have to act like a man. You got to act like a man.
I knew you would deliver. I put the ball in the tee for you, and you hit a home run.
Just brutal.
Back, gone. All righty, here he is with the latest Infinity Sports Network update. El Capitan, Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Now Zach Home Run Derby kicks off the All-Star game. A little bit of a different field tonight. Jose Iglesias, a current infielder for the Mets and a former All-Star with the Tigers. He's going to begin the night singing his hit, OMG.
Just the OMG right before the Derby. That's a unique opportunity. So most go. I've been an All-Star as a player, so now as a singer, it's pretty cool, right?
So Iglesias will get it started. There'll be an 8-man field, including his current teammate Pete Alonso going for his 3rd Derby win, which would tie Ken Griffey Jr. for the most all time. Iglesias seems to think he'll be the lucky charm to help Alonso get there.
100%. 100%. So it will be really cool if Pete, which I'm pretty sure he's going to get it done. He's been there before.
So joining Alonso will be Orioles shortstop Gunnar Henderson, Alec Boehm of the Phillies. You got Guardians Jose Ramirez, Teoscar Hernandez of the Dodgers, Rangers Adolis Garcia, Bobby Witt Jr. of the Royals, and the Braves Marcelo Ozuna. No brackets first round this year, so just the top 4 home run totals will move into the semis. Brackets will be then placed based on the most home runs hit in the first round. The Vikings wide receiver Jordan Addison arrested Friday near LA International Airport on suspicion of driving under the influence. Addison was reportedly asleep behind the wheel blocking a lane. He's already been released from custody. I'm Marco Belletti.
You make the call. 855-212-4227. When you want to talk to us, call 855-212-4227.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network, and it's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day. And it's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Bella B on Twitter says, "Hi, Zach. Would you rather have a personal driver or a personal chef? Thanks. Bella B in Calgary." You could submit a question by tweeting at INF Sportsnet, like Bella just did, or at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB, using the hashtag AskThePros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. I think this may be the easiest question I've ever had to answer.
Same.
Don't get me wrong. It would be so nice to have a personal driver, because you could go to sleep in the back seat. You don't got to sit there with all the stress that comes with traffic or like your foot getting tired with it being on the gas pedal or having to pull over because like your eyes are about to fall asleep and you go get some coffee and you go maybe get like a Wawa chicken wrap that I may or may not have got on my way up to the Poconos on Thursday. Like, don't get me wrong. The personal driver would be very clutch. But when you have the personal driver, there is still a good likelihood that you have to sit through the traffic even though you're not the one driving. The personal chef to me is the answer here because I don't have to worry about doing the grocery shopping. I don't, even if they say, hey, Zach, you got to get the groceries, fine, I'll go get the groceries. I don't got to do the meal prep. I don't got to make the food. And also, there's a lot of times when you go to the supermarket, like tonight I'm going to the supermarket. I'll get some chicken sausage. I'll get some chicken burgers. I'll get some lettuce to make some salads throughout the week. But then there's just some days that you wake up and you go, oh, I just bought all this food. I bought all this crap, but I'm craving something else. With the personal chef, you could text him 4 or 5 hours before, maybe even an hour before and go, hey, personal chef, this is what I want for dinner. This is what I want for lunch. Now, I'd probably only use the personal chef 2 times a day. I'm only a breakfast guy on the weekend, so I'm a lunch and a dinner guy. For some reason, when it's breakfast, I only want breakfast on the weekend. But I don't even think this is really debatable. I would take the personal chef 10 times out of 10. No doubt about it over the personal driver, even though it would be nice not having to drive anyway. But the personal chef to me is just an easier thing, especially living in the city. I don't have to drive as much as usually most people. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a simple thing as well. And also for me, I enjoy driving. I don't want a driver, right? So like if I had an option of like personal chef, housekeeper, nanny, you can go down the list of all the different things that can help you around the house. Personal driver would be the last thing I want. I want to be behind the wheel of a car. I want to drive. I enjoy driving. Living in the city as long as I had, having to take Ubers everywhere, I hate having people drive me everywhere. Every now and again, yeah, it's probably cool, but more often than not, I want someone to cook for me and cook good food because there's no better way to get to my heart than through my stomach.
No, really? That's all it takes? Just got to give you some good food?
That's it.
Then you stop being so angry?
You know what? The angriest I'll ever be, the angriest you'll ever see me is when I am hangry.
Okay, gotcha.
I never realized it till now, but I couldn't agree more with what you said about only getting breakfast on the weekends. Like, I never thought about it, but I don't remember the last time I went and got a bagel on a Tuesday, like, before work.
No.
But I'll go on a Saturday morning.
I will say this, Nico. This is like your debut on the show. I know you've worked with the show before, but without, like, Stu hovering over you because Stu's out this week. I think it was a very solid debut by Nico. So we'll end the show on that. I was very impressed by his college football knowledge. And also, he has a good food take, and that's how you win me over. Good stuff out of Nico, good stuff out of Samter. Good job out of each and every one of you. Thanks for participating. Thanks for listening. Thanks for calling. Thanks for tweeting. Thanks for interacting with us. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. I'm Zach Gelb. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.